Okay, I'll go ahead and call this December 1st work session of the Planning Commission meeting to order. And appreciate everybody coming and doing all. Yes, I'll say it again.
Yeah, you're fine.
Appreciate the committee doing all this, this work effort. I know it's a lot. There's a couple of things here, that I have on my, agenda for the, beginning of the meeting. We're, the, historic task force meeting, that has, not been actually assigned yet, but the city council has decided that we would elect somebody from this board to one of the positions. And then the second position, I'm not sure if we elect somebody or if Bill is automatically, since I asked for Bill to be put on the committee. Do you recall?
Bill's we call it ad hoc or.
Right, as an ad hoc, but he doesn't, he doesn't have to be elected.
But
Okay.
you do need, we were gonna put on, you could do it today if you want, we were gonna put on the PC meeting on the 15th.
Doesn't have to be public.
Yeah, it should be a public,
I know this is public, but should it be at the next meeting?
yeah, it'll be on the 15th.
Yeah,
HRB will next week.
Yeah. I don't. So we'll go ahead and have our election for that seat at our next planning commission meeting. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Oh, I guess the pleasure of having more meetings to their life.
Yes, yes,
For free.
yes,
This is the task force,
yes, yes. So one that Bill and I have been on.
That's gonna be separate from the HRB.
Yes.
What is their job?
Well, the main charge, this started back during summer last, when we were talking about the writing of the code, rewriting the codes, we started talking about the demolition section for historic. And at that time, I suggested that the HRB and Planning Commission have a joint session to talk about that issue. And it was then decided that I would meet with the chairman of HRB and have that discussion. What came out of that meeting was this task force, this potential task force, because of the people that were involved with it at that time. So what we did was we went ahead and moved forward with having meetings to start to outline what the issues were and what were accomplished. We got to the point where we decided that we needed to have a task force stood up by the city council, so that what decision would come out of that would be already part. Well, yeah, but vetted, but would be official, so to speak, official. And there would be public meetings that would be advertised and announced, so that the public had participation. And there was a lot of public people wanted to be involved. So we went through the process of having people submit their qualifications. And one of the qualifications was that they needed to be a resident of these areas that we were talking about. And they would be vetted. And through that process. And then, do we have people that have now been assigned to those positions from the community yet?
10 months, December 31st.
Okay, so that's coming up. And they will then
That's a
join.
deadline for the members of the public to apply to
Correct.
be on the task force.
To go through the interview process and then be nominated by the city council.
When you say positions, how many people are we talking about, and what, you say positions? What are their, what's each, are there specific responsibilities for?
No.
No?
Is it
No.
by neighborhood?
They're just members of the neighborhood community that we're talking about, that are being affected by whatever comes out of this task force. And I believe it's 4 members from the community, 4 members of the community that will be added to the task force. 5, okay, 5. I guess that's a little ways away, but if we want to go ahead and do our nominations and get that out of the way, we can do that. So we'll do that at the next.
5 people going to be nominated on the task force.
Correct.
Who is currently on the task force?
Same people that have been doing this now for the last 6 months.
You and Bill.
Me, Bill, and then there's also the head of BF, Mike Sutton.
Okay.
He's been on there, and I believe HBF has to nominate their person too. So, so it'll continue to be nominated out for those boards instead of just an individual that has been assigned to that. And then there's Dick Stewart, and there's somebody from Historic Beaufort.
He represents the arts district. Right.
Yeah. So
That's the quadrant and the commons and.
we'll cover more than that. It covers all historic structures in the city of Beaufort. But in particular, we'll be talking about those 2 areas, because those are the most affected, right? And what I'm hoping is that we will be able to do a couple of meetings with that group, and then coming out of that group, we will be able to go ahead and write our code section.
That we would take, that comes out of the task force, planning commission, take that information.
Yeah, it actually won't come out of the task force, but Bill and I will put that language together. And we'll discuss it with the task force, but then it will come back to this board to have a reading and a vote. And then it'll go to the city.
So when you say you'll come up with language for which specific code section?
It's section 8,
9,
9,
1,
9/11, 9/11.
something.
Yeah. It's a section on demolition now.
But 10.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah,
first
10 and 11, maybe 12.
one of
That's
those.
like that, maybe 12,
Yeah,
and we had done something on that, you recall, but then apparently feedback was the council. Didn't like it and wanted us to meet further about it, so
right.
we'll just start over.
Well,
Maybe it'll be the same thing when we get around to it, but we never ended up really discussing it in the task force, because we
No,
got off on all
no.
these tangents for
Well,
several months.
and I really didn't want to talk about it in the task force at that point.
But it did get off on a number of different
Yeah.
worthwhile tangents, but they were just tangents, I guess you'd say.
So once we write that code section, the question might be, well, should we still have that attendance on the task force continuing on into perpetuity or whatever, or not? And that's another question that we'll probably have to have a discussion about.
Did you say
Don't worry
that?
about that now.
But yeah,
Did you say that you hadn't actually been formally composed by the city council yet?
no, it has.
It has, okay, was there a
It
mission
has.
statement in whatever resolution they had?
Yes,
Yeah.
So what does that mission statement say?
Kurt wrote the mission statement and, was reviewed by us and city council.
It's more than just the code, it's, just advising on that changes to this.
Yeah, it's for the task force, not the code.
Okay, so mission statement would allow for perpetuity possibly.
Yeah, there's no end date to it. At this point.
So we'll put that election, that's your first thing on your next page.
Yes. Yeah. And it might be good to go ahead and publish the, what city council has already approved.
And if you'd like, we could do your elections for officers for next year, same time, or at the end of the meeting.
That would be fine.
We just do it at the end.
But,
We'll put that at the end of the meeting.
okay. All right. Is there any other business that anybody would like to bring up or discuss before we start on our code?
I want to bring something back on last meeting upstairs, so we had this Broad River complex that was presented. And when we were going through the code, we talked about actually taking a holistic approach to a development. And in looking at this development, there were multiple issues that I came up with. There's only one way in, one way out. There's no connection to call it the Walmart shopping center by walking or a path, right? I could go out on Broad River and walk, and I don't think we want to walk on Broad River. The whole unit was just an isolated island, very nicely done, laid out with the complex and the apartment. Grassy areas and so on. But it did not have that continuity that we were looking at from what we were in code. They do these traffic studies at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I mean, Broad River, there's multiple. Has anybody ever driven on Broad River at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? When kids are going to school, the students are, they have a shampoo and then the folks back there is. But we really looked at that plan and just kind of said, okay, fine, let's go to the next step. And I think.
Well, we didn't have an
Well,
alternative because,
Unless I'm missing something.
well, all we do is provide comments and then they take their comments and they either address them all, and they come their full, that. They ignore, at their peril, but we told them a lot of stuff. I mean, they sure walked out of there, I would think, with a lot of, ideas for improvement. And just as far as the traffic studies, certainly, can I talk about that a lot?
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Because they have to look at the peak hours, the morning and afternoon peak, so it's not an alternative to study anything else but that, and it looks at intersections. Some are signalized and some are not, and that's by code, the way all of these studies are done, including ours here, so they can't fund it, they just can't. And then it's reviewed by, don't you have somebody technical reviewing it other than I?
County's engineering.
Yeah.
And they have a third party engineer.
So it's been a long time studying those studies. People always think they're fudged, but they're not. There's just no, you would ruin your reputation as a professional engineer if you did that. And you never get hired again.
Now, that traffic study was done in 2024, but I think that's fairly current as far as we're concerned.
And one of the things I did say is and I said, come up with an answer, is that it did have a couple of intersections that were below our code specified standard D. And I said, so, I'm not telling you that we can't live with less than that because it says go, but you better explain it, And I think that you made it pretty clear that it's it's not gonna work well with one entrance. Because they have two developments, they gotta figure out a way. Are you gonna run them through these two different planning commissions at the same time, or are we gonna come second? Cause I don't think we wanna be first counting on, right, an access that may never come to pass, right?
Well,
Or they can take part of that property into this application. I think maybe you suggested that, Kurt, didn't you?
Well, we would annex that, they would annex that into the state for just the road.
It would have to be annexed.
Yes.
Or they would have to have an easement over it.
Or what?
Easement,
Yeah, presented with an easement that would be that's found on in that terms of.
some kind of,
Yeah.
but it's the same owner, so they have the wherewithal to be able to accomplish that. I think we made it pretty clear that that was gonna have to
So
have something done.
Megan, I didn't catch by the 2024 traffic study. Did it meet the expanded scope of traffic studies that we amended the code to? Include?
They, if I remember right, Bill, what they did was they did include the future developments, that area. Yeah, I totally agree with, Bill. I don't like the amount of traffic that we got out there on Broad River and we're just increasing it. Now, we don't really have any control over state highway
Right.
and,
Well, we learned
it's
that.
got to be, I think it's got to be expanded too, but,
Just an intersection of Paris Island, Parkway and Trask. Up there further, that's death defying to go through there. Traffic. It's incredible.
I do it all the time too, but,
Try it on a bike.
no.
Why would you do that?
If you're on the trail.
No, fine.
But it just seemed like they made a nice presentation. It's a nice looking complex. And the whole idea of the ingress and egress from that property is from 2 points. One over on Broad River and one over on Paris Island. And we talked about that too, in terms of the emergency police access and how that causes a problem with those apartments over there on Salem. I think it is Jericho. The way it's laid out.
Well, they're gonna have accel and decel lanes, I think for sure.
So I mean, there's more.
They
to
were
it.
talking about that, so,
yeah, I'd just be cautious about saying much about it. We're gonna come back.
yeah,
No one already filled the record before.
good.
I think, I don't know if it's not online yet, but I think that project that's in the county is going to their design review board on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. He says that.
Do they have the same level of process that we do? Like this was a sketch plan. Are we compatible or parallel?
I don't think we are for the way.
Well, if they're going to their design review board, then it's. I guess they're not considering it a subdivision application like we did.
No, because they're not building. That's the street was to the. For the city.
So they're just looking at the design aspects of it then.
That, but we should probably, we got betters on until 2:30.
Something like they get set in stone, in the county, I mean,
Yeah.
or it's getting firmed up, I would think, if.
Well, if it's their design review board, this would be their final approval then to, is that right?
Don't know.
Can you check that
I
out?
don't know.
I think it's the first time, but.
But it may be,
Seeking
but I'm just
some
saying,
level.
but it may be that this is a final vote unless they send them back and we should monitor that, don't you think?
I talked to the planning director, county about it, so, change.
Yeah.
Again, I would just, we shouldn't build a record here. Talking about-
Well, we're not deciding anything.
No, I don't, we don't want to.
We are.
No.
Yeah, let's move on from there.
I said my piece, thank you.
All right. And, any other comments from the board for discussion?
Oh, there was the Habersham, if everybody got that email for January
Yes.
17th, Thursday.
Yes.
Thursday.
15th.
15 Thursday. Yeah.
Apologies.
taking the day off from work.
Noon.
Yeah.
They plan with me
Bistro 10,
10.
good choice. They have great coconut cake.
I think it's the only thing that's open. So. And then
That's January 15th, we're talking about.
January 15th. It's gonna take you on a tour of the development. Discuss how it came to be.
Okay,
One other
yes.
quick question here, without a lot of discussion, just a quick question. Is there any follow-up or action that we are to take and follow up to the couple that lives at 1207 Bay Street next to that inn and came to speak to us at the beginning of the last regular meeting? Do we?
No, no,
We understand. They're here.
right, but, and I'll give public comment in a minute if they want to make a public comment. But, no, that has to do with the, bed and breakfast part of the code. And we have, we need to go and review that along with the, STRs. And I think we need to do all of that at one time.
Okay.
When we go back to make our decisions about where we want to go with that. I would like to get to that again as soon as possible, before we have a joint meeting with city council. I believe my discussions with city council was that they were leaning towards having a joint session with us to discuss those, so that we could get everything out on the table at once.
So that would like be January,
Yeah.
February sometime.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
it's on the, you can talk about it, but I would just suggest that we maybe talk about the chapter 4 stuff first. Our architect, but we can.
No, I didn't, I was not trying to
Oh,
start
yeah.
a discussion, I just want to know what's next. Okay,
2:30.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think we are gonna do that now. I'll find more out about that.
Okay, cool.
Any other? I guess I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment if anybody wants to make a public comment at this point in time. I can reserve time at the end of the meeting to do public comment as well.
Sure. I know y'all probably aren't gonna discuss the, bed and breakfast or short-term rentals years, I guess. But, since these chapters are going to envelop a lot of stuff with bed and breakfasts and with short-term rentals, if you don't mind, I can make my general comments now, or I can hold them to another time if that's more appropriate, if the chair thinks.
And we had heard your comments and we're very well aware of the comments all up to now.
I've got other comments.
Now, at the end of the, if you wouldn't mind, if you can hang out. Or if your comments are only gonna take 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, go ahead and do your comments now, and then we'll get to chapter 4. But we will not be making a decision now, or even probably at the next meeting, for bed and breakfasts and STRs.
Yeah, and I plan on being at all the meetings and,
Okay.
and I plan on talking on about certain sections in every section that has to do with. But anyway, just so you know, I'm Wallace Scarborough. I live at 1207 Bay Street. Originally from Charleston, been living here in Beaufort for 17 years now. And just a little background on me, just so you kind of know, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, bed and breakfast rules and regulations. I'm just kind of going to talk a little briefly about the state side. I served in the South Carolina House of Representatives for 8 years. I served as a House member for the town of James Island, the entire James Island and Folly Beach. My House district sat completely 100% in Senator Glenn McConnell's Senate district in Charleston. Senator McConnell was the President pro tem of the Senate at the time, as well as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. He and I worked very closely together on all legislation. In late 1990s, early 2000s, Joe Riley and the city of Charleston were having tremendous problems with bed and breakfast and short-term rentals. They came to Senator McConnell and asked for Senator McConnell to draft legislation that could be a framework for which the cities could work within. I'm sure you're aware and understand, but I only bring this up because I was told differently by a member of Beaufort city staff that the way the law works, top down, federal government, state government, county government, city government. The laws are stacked and they're more onerous as you go down. You can't not abide by state law. I was told by a city employee that they didn't have to follow state law. Now, we know that's not true. But the current bed and breakfast law came from Senator Glenn McConnell. He's the one that drafted the legislation. He's the one that came up with it. And I was intimately involved with Senator McConnell and Arthur Ravenel, the two state senators that drafted the current bed and breakfast laws in South Carolina. So I understand what the major intent of the law was. When you read the law in the state of South Carolina, they divided it out in multiple sections. They had hotels, motels, restaurants, boarding houses, and bed and breakfasts. Bed and breakfasts were then the most onerous, most restrictive type of residential stay. When you read state law, and I'm only going to read these few little highlighted sections, just a few sentences. A bed and breakfast means a residential type lodging facility having no more than 10 guest rooms where transient guests are fed, lodged, and for paid. The chapter does not apply to hotels, motels, motor inns, resorts, rooming houses, boarding houses, hunting lodges, campgrounds. A bed and breakfast or residential type lodging facilities having 3 to 10 guest rooms that serve only breakfast to registered guests only. It's in state law. Bed and breakfast here now currently gives meals to other people, has meals outside of breakfast. State law says you can't do that. It goes on to state that a continental full breakfast, registered guest only. P-type service, registered guest only. So my point here is, I think y'all need to look at not only the regulations that my wife's going to talk about in just a second, but we need to have proper enforcement of the laws currently on the books. If we're not enforcing the laws currently on the books, there's no reason to change them. But we need to change them because Mayor Riley and the city of Charleston recognized the problem years ago, early 2000s, and we are now at the point where Charleston was back in the early 2000s with bed and breakfast, non-owner occupied short-term rentals. We need to get a handle on it now. We need to fix it before it gets out of control. And thank you very much.
May I follow him? Since it's the same topic,
Okay,
I'll be quick.
okay.
School teacher in me, I got handouts. My name's Catherine Scarborough, and I live at 1207 Bay Street. I have lived there for over 30 years. And while I was there, was always a short-term rental going on next door. So I've lived in that same house with different enforcement by different city bodies. And I can tell and distinguish between what's worked in our neighborhood and what has not worked. The state law, of course, has to be enforced as it currently sits. However, I also went to cities that we're comparable with, such as Savannah, Charleston, and New Orleans. And I have made a chart where we are alike or not alike. Really, what I'm proposing would put us like these other cities. So I don't see the reason why we wouldn't be. If I could start with the first one, Savannah, Charleston, New Orleans has to be owner occupied. Owner has to live in the facility. Only breakfast is served all the way across the board. Ours should be because of state law. Meals other than breakfast are not allowed in Charleston, Savannah, or New Orleans, shouldn't be allowed in ours. Events and receptions are not allowed, that should not be allowed in ours because it's a disruption to the neighborhood, as I talked about the last time. The liquor and restaurant licensing should not be allowed because that opens the door to sell alcohol and then it becomes a business, a bar, or a restaurant. The maximum guest at one time, Savannah varies. Charleston has 10 guests only. New Orleans has 12 guests only. Ours currently has 20. We need to cut that down. Our maximum guest rooms, 4 to 6 in Savannah, 5 in Charleston, 5 in New Orleans, and I propose for the city of Beaufort to also do 5 in residential areas. The license is revocable in all of those except ours. So if somebody acts out of line, they're not following a city regulation, state regulation, or misrepresenting themselves, their license could be revoked. All I'm doing is asking that we adopt the same things. I'm not asking for anything extraordinary. I'm asking for what our sister cities are doing to preserve our sensitive historic neighborhood. And if you like, I'll just pass these out, because I think they sort of speak to themselves as to what happens if you don't have all of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll end public comment now then, and we'll go back to chapter 4. And I know that we left off at page my glasses, page 16 and 17, but rather than we were actually going line by line, page by page at that time. And since we have our consultant online, Kurt, I think what you would like to do is talk about any
Yeah.
overarching kinds of.
They were, unfortunately because of the holiday last week, that kind of things didn't go right, but they were able to make some slight updates from, some updates from last meeting, so. I was hoping Maria, who's also an architect that we work with every day, first, and as Jeremy was really morning, so could just kind of take us through a few of those. And those were not sent out to you, so again, we're just going to send out the draft. If you want a copy of this, we can send it. But
okay, let me ask this: what are these updates to things that we already discussed?
Things that you discussed. So we were kind of gonna.
So we're backwards.
Well, yeah, I think we kind of went over the whole thing, and then you started getting into the granular detail. I mean, I think that's what we were going to just kind of go over those real quick. That's okay.
If I can clarify too, it's can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's Maria. Yeah, Jeremy is he's sick, so he's not in the office right now, but we were both looking through the code changes last week. We kind of looked at everything. I know you guys had gone, I think the last time was page 1 through 16 or 17 or 18, something like that. But we were starting to take a stab at, I think some of the sections that we did discuss, and then getting more into the weeds in the section 4.5 about the different housing types. So one of the things that we were talking about was, like we discussed last time, the formal entry courtyard / courtyard, the forecourt. We were trying to find relevant examples, which I can share those photos with you guys. In Savannah, Beaufort, Charleston area that could apply. Trying to find examples of appropriate / inappropriate. And again, some of those pictures we haven't put in here just yet, just because the Word doesn't like all the photos. But then going kind of further into that, delving into the single family, the 2 to 3 unit, the apartment homes, the liner buildings. The only section that we kind of hadn't touched in 4.5 was, I'm trying to scroll down, was I think the civic/institutional buildings, and then still kind of working through the car wash and drive-through. I think our goal with that was to keep, gas, fuel stations, car washes as one thing, and then drive-throughs as a separate item. And really just going back to, we had added a lot of information in section 4.3.2 that are kind of overarching. This is what we want low country architecture to look like. But this is how it should relate to the, its environment. And so taking each of those 4.5 sections and sort of relating it back to 4.3.2. So we can go through, each thing individually, but that's kind of the thing. You'll see something like 4.5.9 liner buildings. Those that has a section about low country design elements, general architecture requirements, and then we have a specific section about special architecture requirements for liner buildings, which are obviously going to be different requirements from, say, an apartment building. So it does get a little nuanced with each section, but we pretty much are just trying to expand on the things that we've already discussed. And I think I thought you guys had gotten it already, but when you look over it, if you have any questions, definitely just let Jeremy and I know. But I'm here if you guys want to talk about anything specific or not, but we'll take any feedback from this meeting and we'll keep progressing with it too. So
I have a question about this draft that we're looking at.
Mhm.
For example, 4.3.2 on page 4, we've got red, we got blue, and we highlighted, and we have black. which
Yeah.
I think black must be the old stuff. But
Yeah.
what is the other stuff? Is there new stuff in here that you guys have added over and above what we did? And how do we know what that is?
Yes, I believe it should be, if we go to 4, let me see. Nicholas, can you scroll down a little bit? I believe what we added was in red. To be honest, it's gotten a little confusing for even Jeremy and I, keeping up with all the code changes after, 4 or 5 people have looked at it and it's in all the different colors. So we actually just turned off the track changes for our edits, and it made it a lot more legible. But I believe, for just to answer the question, I think we are the red edits. And it should be there on the, let's see, on the right hand side, which actually looks like I'm green. So maybe I'm green. But yeah,
I think you're kind of green. I think Crystal was muted. But
Yeah.
and then highlighted everything that was discussion item.
yeah, the highlighted stuff is anything highlighted yellow is really more just, we had kind of open-ended questions and things that were, for discussion.
We go start on page 16, since we did make some revisions in the last time, but we can get back to those. We might as well move on, go to page 16, and then we'll come back to it all.
Sorry, so just for the future, I know we're trying to minimize the number of drafts, but if we get a document like this, and certainly members of the public, if they look at a document like this, have no idea what's what. And so we need a key for each and every draft that explains what the colors represent to help us understand what's going on.
That would be very helpful, I think. I think we're and the consultant's not as familiar with what you were operating under what we were operating under as a priority was that the draft that we had, that we were looking at making changes to in our last meeting, would stay, and we would continue making changes to that draft so that we didn't start getting confused like we have in the past with all these other changes and trying to keep up with them, because then we've got
Yeah, and
so many documents.
that's what we were trying to do, is just as yellow, but they weren't able to do this until Wednesday, and They sent it Wednesday afternoon, so I didn't have time to put it back into the code to fix it, so
And I
we
can,
just don't have time, we just didn't have time because of the holiday, so, but let's start back on. 16, and I'll fix all that, so this is kind
yeah,
of.
if you could give us a, let us look at
Well,
it.
I think we were just gonna do highlighted yellow was gonna be anything you had an issue with. I was moving
So-
forward, but
How did something get highlighted?
it's just yellow. If
No,
you-
I mean, not how did you highlight it?
How do you decide?
What is, what
You
was-
talked about it and you had an issue with it, you wanted to talk about it.
you wanted more discussion?
And that was what was you with the packet. And so because of the holidays, they were able to kind of make some recommendations based on that on Wednesday afternoon. So obviously, Wednesday afternoon couldn't do much more than that, so so let's just start again on page 16 or 17, I think that's where we were, and let's just keep going through it. And if you see it highlighted yellow, it means that you raised a concern, but otherwise, if it's in green or red or blue, it's a revision. Yeah. Either one of the three of us proposing,
Okay, so all green, red and blue are proposing
yes, revision.
From
And
either
again,
staff-
before,
are,
usually we would just have anything revised, we would make sure that it's like, just because the specific, because of the time crunch here, just anything that's revised is in blue, red, or green. We'll clean that up.
Okay, I think that's fair. Give us the code, the color code for that, and we'll do that. My question right now, though, is as we're moving forward, I guess we're looking at two documents as we move forward.
No, we're just gonna keep the
You don't
document
want
you have
it.
before.
Oh, so
you-
we're just gonna go
We'll
through
go on the screen, and
Okay,
we'll just,
all right, and then we'll go back
and then I'll send you
review.
any changes, we'll go back, and we'll send any changes to yellow, I guess.
Okay, yeah, send us, yeah, that'd be, if you do yellow for anything. Yeah,
well, wait, we're already using yellow for discussion points. Now we're gonna yellow any changes and changes by whom?
Changes that you've discussed. So again, I'm sorry, we probably shouldn't have had them even. That's why I was trying to delay this, a little bit, because I knew we didn't have time. But-
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Trask is online, has a question as well. And I know we've already started on something else, but he came in right at the end, for public comment. So I apologize, but he is.
we've got a consultant online right now.
Understood.
We're gonna hold any more public comments, we're gonna be held till we're done.
Okay, perfect.
So we'll do that at the end. Appreciate that.
Yes.
All right,
So we got to page 16.
okay,
So, anything that's in red, blue, or green is something you haven't, is a proposed change. You haven't even gotten to this section yet.
What's the yellow? We got our first
Yellow is
yellow on
something
17.
Something you talked about before. I think, so you did talk about some of this before.
I'm looking at the draft.
Draft and.
I'm looking at the draft that we had on the table last.
Okay,
We're moving forward based on that.
okay. And what is being shown on the screen?
But
It's
can we
the same thing that Mike's looking at, is it what's in front of us today?
That's should be what's in front of you today.
So our chairperson is looking at a different draft than on the screen and what we are
I
looking
guess
at.
we'll just have to look at both. The page numbers have not changed though, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, let's just go back. to
There's so many additions that have to change.
has changed.
Because I'm looking at the last time period, it says 1 of 73, this is 1 of 56.
We'll just go, let's go back to where we were at. I should be.
Just forget about this thing you handed out today?
Yeah, I guess I need to put it into the rest of the code, so we just didn't have time to. So,
Well, you could bring up issues.
yeah, I'll refer to that.
If you would mind, you could refer to today's, as we're looking at our last one. And just discuss that.
Sure.
Okay. That sounds like a deal. So everybody, we're all back on what we had originally from last session. And or based on that, Kurt will keep up with the new additions when we talk about those. So, so I'll go back on, 16. There's a couple of overarching things, but I'll wait till we get to them, in the material. Because for consistency's sake. If I go to page 16 on single family detached house, if I go to B2,
Elevation.
special requirements. Yeah, B2, 454, B2. Okay, it says historic district in the historic district, and then it says new construction shall be, and I want to replace with fall construction.
So, does that present a problem if somebody's remodeling, and they don't meet that?
Yes, that's why I said all. So that anybody that's doing renovations needs to comply with the renovations or expansions.
Let me ask that,
I'll get, Paul, I'll get to you.
Sure.
so the idea of avoiding slab on grade, what's the reason for that?
The reason for slab on,
I mean, a reason.
we're not,
Yeah, go ahead.
we're not having, you can have a slab on grade, but you have to have a turn down, at the perimeter. And the turn down would allow you to bring your siding down so that it stays, 16 inches above grade.
And
You
then,
have to stay 16 inches above grade. For moisture protection.
So this-
and
so this has to do with moisture infiltration, because it
Yes.
says to avoid a slab on grade foundation type. I mean, that sounds to me like it's just saying we don't like slab on grade, but that isn't the point. They're trying to, it's the point is something different.
Yeah, I guess if you didn't have either like a slab on grade or a raised slab grade.
Yeah, but what we're saying is you need to have.
So you look at those and a raised slab on grade is just a little bit higher slab on grade.
Right.
So maybe that should say to avoid a slab on grade foundation type, because that's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to make sure that it is higher than ordinary to be able to avoid certain moisture and other kind of.
Yeah, and you might, you might wanna, because like if I read something that's the avoid slab on grade, I might cross out raised slab on grade too, in my opinion, so maybe we should clarify that same.
Maybe you don't have to say anything about it. Other than just to say that you want it to be elevated 18 inches above grade.
Yeah.
Get rid of the whole part about in order to avoid, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, that works.
So put a period after grade.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
So, so
But-
I'd like to ask more about the remodeling situation. I mean, if somebody wants to build an extra bed and bath onto their existing house, they have to raise the whole house if it doesn't meet that?
No, just what they're renovating.
Okay, so I think we need to clarify that because I don't know.
Is it all new home construction? You're not talking about renovation of an existing.
Well, he's saying to change new to all.
Yeah, but you can't do that. Yeah, I mean, I think what you really do is on the new home construction, not somebody who's, as Kim says, that.
Okay.
Trying to renovate.
Yeah,
It's
I
what's
guess,
added,
But
like
the
the
grade is-
portion to the existing house, you don't want that weird step up.
Right.
No, you don't, that's right,
So leave it as new,
new home construction.
yeah, that's okay.
but put a period after
Great.
grade.
Right. Very common.
I'll follow that.
Let me ask a really dumb question, and I'm not embarrassed to ask it. When we say 18 inches in height above quote grade, what does grade mean? Is that the natural elevation that was there before anybody brought it in?
No final elevations,
I guess,
Final-
above existing grade.
final elevation of grade.
Yeah.
No, not existing.
Oh, you're,
Final elevation,
So if they put fill in,
That's
that's
right.
the grade.
oh, okay,
that's right.
but maybe that's what you should say then. Shouldn't you, rather than just say,
No, it's like, if understood, I just, a grade could be anything. I mean, are you talking about the grade that was there naturally
No, it'd
before?
be final grade, you're right.
yeah, why don't we just
You're right,
describe it?
say final grade,
I don't,
yeah.
The final grade?
Yeah.
There you go, okay.
And I'd just like to say that all the way through this thing, we use different height, there's different heights identified in here. But let's just make them all 18 inches.
Okay.
so you want to backtrack to the other ones, like carriage house?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's just get through this one time and then, that's the plan, then we'll,
I suggest that we use envelopes and not letters to discuss. Look, at our own key, let's use 12 inches or 2.
we'll do it.
Write it out as a number.
Okay, if I continue on to 7, I have garages. Garage doors shall not extend across more than 30% of the street facade. And I'm just wondering, does that seem okay?
No, here's my
I was
thinking on
very
it, so.
tentative with your conversation.
Yeah, this is, so most people are gonna want, and we're thinking of, the typical new subdivision, they're gonna wanna have a 2-car garage. And so you're talking about a minimum of 24 feet, I think, with there.
Prevent a two-car garage.
Well, why would we wanna prevent a 2-car garage, because people are just gonna park more stuff.
I think it's a
Driveway.
form-based code principle that you don't want garages in front of the house. Like you do.
Well,
That's the point, I'm just trying to.
so let's go back to our typical example of Salem Bay, aren't those 2-car garages?
They got a variance.
So let's go back to what I said about variances. Because of the fact that our code here in South Carolina allows you to backdoor virtually everything. Why do we want to, they come here with a design of 1-car garage and then they go to the Board of Adjustment and they're allowed 2-car garages. I mean, it's just insane.
I mean, they're usually
So-
pretty good.
I'm just saying that people want to have a 2-car garage and it's practical and otherwise, because otherwise you got people, they got 1 car and then they got a wider driveway or they got a cars parked behind each other. I think we have to recognize the practical reality that people want to have a 2-car garage. So my continuing point on that is if that's 24 feet and a standard standard lot size in one of those subdivisions is probably a 60-foot wide lot. 60 by 100 would be 6,000. If you got a 5 and 5 side yard, that's gonna be a 50-foot wide structure. 24 of that would be garage. That would leave you 26 feet for structure. And that's close to 50%. So I think you're gonna have to say, I think you gotta go up to at least 50% on this.
Well, again, I'm trying to, I guess, the argument with, it's a form-based code, so it's trying to eliminate suburban, it's trying to eliminate the
understand this.
suburban form and make it more of an alley.
I understand this argument.
Side-loaded garage or just a 1-car garage at most. It's trying to take the impact away from the front yard and bring the front yard up to the sidewalk. This is
Yeah,
makes
you
sense.
were-
It's trying to turn into Habersham or Battery Point or Celadon and not
But not everybody,
Salem Bay. It's trying to prevent Salem Bay. So I mean, I'm just giving you the
but
background.
there's no way to prevent the Salem Bay if they can just go to the Board of Adjustment. and
Well, I
just
don't
get a
know
variance
that
around
they
it.
should have been able to have been allowed to do a blanket variance for the whole subdivision. It should have been each lot.
Well, so that,
That was a little bit manipulated, that I can't explain why that was done. I wasn't here, but
Well,
it shouldn't have been done.
so whether
if we
they,
as a group all think the two car garages are okay, we would be allowed to
yeah,
make that change,
You're
right?
making the recommendation, I'm just giving you the recommendation from form-based code.
I'm just saying, basic call, no garages or
It
one
calls for no garage or
There's
minimal
nothing for the
garage
backside.
in the front yard.
more sign.
and those are wonderful subdivisions like New Point, but not everybody's gonna build one of those.
I mean, it's.
Unless we're essentially gonna outlaw, anything but those going forward.
I think that's the goal, is to kind of get away from suburban style development, or, like where Clinton lives. That's the whole goal, the form-based code is to prevent.
I think if I could, if I could add something too, when Jeremy and I were working on the new code change document, we had a thought that, I think the issue is maybe just with the overall width of the 2-car garage doors, and the suburban feel that Kurt's talking about. So instead of getting rid of, like just saying absolutely no 2-car garages, you just have them be 2 separate, 1-car garage doors. And I think that kind of brings down the scale a little bit. That was our,
With 24 feet or 26 feet, I like the idea of two garage doors. It's like I have on my garage instead of one great big wide door. It looks better, I agree, but you're still gonna have that width issue no matter what.
I'm kind of I don't like looking at garage doors when you're, going down the street, just if it's like 50% front and 50%
Right.
garage doors. But I think what we kind of talked about in the last meeting is to set back the garage door, quite a bit from the front facade.
Garage.
Right.
So it's kind of hidden as you're driving down the street.
Right.
And I think that would work.
Still have the two garage doors and set back.
Set
So
back
that's-
enough to where it's not, it's not the prominent architecture.
If that can be accomplished.
So,
And that might be more useful to a family anyway. Mom and dad get to park in the garage and then the teenagers have to park in the driveway. I mean, with the 4 vehicles for.
what would
typical
you
families.
consider a setback that would be?
The
Maybe
current
a
code,
20 foot.
the current code is 5 feet from the front facade of the house,
Yeah, that's right.
and then 20 feet from the street.
Yeah,
Right.
but I don't know if 5
20
feet is
But
enough.
my question is,
So the offset is
5
5
feet.
foot?
From the main house, from
Yeah.
the face of the facade of the house, yeah.
So it probably needs to be like a car length maybe,
Yeah.
and then the garage 15, something like that.
Well, so, see.
With Salem Bay, the issue that maybe it is, if that 5-foot setback had been employed. Because that isn't the case now, everybody said, oh, Salem Bay, yeah.
Oh, they didn't do the 5-foot
No,
setback
no.
either. Was that in the code too? And they got a
Yes.
variance on that too?
It is, whatever happened, it's not that way. It's not that way. So,
Something had to
I don't wanna say
formally
so
happen.
many things, but a number of things, yeah. If we let the code work, apply what's already there, might,
But the code called for 5 foot.
yes.
And,
Yeah,
and the 5 foot allows for a 2-car.
doesn't talk about,
Doesn't.
doesn't talk about, talk about the setback is, Benji mentioned, that's
But
what,
you can only have.
I like the idea of a
12
car
foot
length
wide
at least.
driveway.
yeah, but
15
right.
feet.
So you sort of
So
like back.
this was to kind of improve upon that and say,
Yeah.
no longer, like having a garage is 50% of your size, pretty unattractive. And then you're gonna have the 20 feet or 18 space, it becomes a very suburban dorm, right?
Well, if this is an issue, among everybody, we could just say, well, let's just keep in place and enforce what's already there, and then later on, if the next development comes around, ooh, didn't change. Just, if this is.
I mean, I
an
think it
issue.
is now being implemented, and it's just, they got a blanket variance for everything. I can't explain why.
It's a random, sort of observation, but in this day of every, affordable housing, want to make more, housing more affordable. Why are we having a garage? Isn't that just more material, more I don't know, so.
Well, it's pretty functional.
Yeah.
Very functional.
But I mean-
Definitely needs a garage.
So many buildings, houses built, when my house was built, didn't have a garage in the historic district. Garages weren't really
Kurt,
typical.
what would you have
But
done
it
in Salem Bay if you had been here and with
It would look completely different. It would probably look more like Camellia Banks or something like that. Your garages would be.
but you would have been following the code too, right?
We would have been
You
following
wouldn't
the code.
reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, we wouldn't have recommended for the variance, we would have strongly recommended against it, but we wouldn't have allowed them to do a variance for tires. Either, but I can't speak on what happened with all that stuff. It happened, and now here we are, but I think you got two options, you can add this. Or you can just keep the code the way it is, I don't know if you like the rest of it, but.
I think one of the other things too about Salem Bay that we were looking at is that those garages are incorporated into the overall massing of the house, which again kind of lends it to its suburban feel. So I think that there's sections that we can add, notes that we can add that makes it, I think it might be better, having a either detached garage in the rear or maybe a garage that's attached by like a breezeway or corridor or something, to avoid what you get, which are these front-loaded garages that are built into the massing of your house. I think that's where the issue is. Habersham doesn't have that. So I don't know if there's maybe something worth considering there, changing that. Because again, that's, I think a big convenience factor for a lot of people. And that's why, you just go straight into your garage and you walk inside. But, I think traditionally having a detached garage and your main house just speak for itself, I think goes a long way. So I think just something to consider. Salem Bay, I think, is a good example of one type where it's built into the house, and then you have something else like Habersham where they kind of treat it as its own entity, or it's set to the back with a driveway or something like that. So,
And historically, the form here, if you had a garage, it would have been in the back. Or detached.
right.
A lot of them were connected by, I like the breezeway connection, idea. And if you look at, go across the bridge, the new houses that are being constructed now, have garages connected by a breezeway.
Whitehall?
Yeah, Whitehall. I think those are really going back to what, houses, forms and low country vernacular really was. So I really like that idea that, the consultant has, in looking at that. So
Is that what is meant by the blue phrase in the new draft? It says parentheses require architectural elements instead of percentage limit
Yes,
question mark.
we talked about this last time, so this is really where we stopped. So, kind of reliving this same conversation. So that was the note.
So, well, Benji, does that satisfy your thoughts too then, if we're requiring,
A breezeway.
a breezeway or, for a connection?
You mean to split the house, the garage from the main house, and not adding, you're, if you got a 60-foot, 50-foot, or a 60-foot wide lot, and you got a 24-foot garage, and now you're putting a breezeway in between the house, now you're even shrinking the size of the house even more, the width, you can't do that.
I think the breezeways are typically when the garage is in the back.
In the
Yeah.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the thought.
Which is, the garage is in the back anyway, that's, from the urban design perspective, preferred, so there's no breezeway or not, good to go when it's in the back. I think these issues are when the garages are up front.
But if the garage is attached to the house, I would go back to what Benji was saying, I would much rather have that backup greater than 5 feet. I would go to 15 feet.
Would you like us to kind of just work on this and bring it back
Yes,
to you?
yeah,
I mean, I think the question is there's like a little bit of a debate here. I think we got the form-based texture crowd and the non-form-based crowd.
No, I don't think there's
Well, no, but I mean, there's like, do you want to go with limiting and mostly should be in the back or not? Because that's how we'll have to design it. Do you want to allow like one car in the front? Want to
I don't
basically
think,
almost prohibit it?
I don't think a one-car garage is practical.
In the front, loaded in the front yard, not.
Here's another
Cars, but
thing,
maybe
is
side
these,
loaded or rear
just
loaded.
let me say, this other thing about these communities, which as much as we like the New Points and all those, they're not affordable communities. The price of homes in those communities are always gonna be a lot more than they are in the Salem Bay. The infrastructure of adding another street, i.e. an alley, is not inexpensive. There's a reason that developers do these things the way they do, other than the fact they just don't have any taste. They're trying to get things at a semi-affordable price for people, which are really challenging nowadays.
I would disagree with you because where I was before, we had DR Horton and all the regional builders had Valley Road model or selling them.
You know, I just read a great article about that my alley loaded is not necessarily more expensive than front loaded. When you take into account the width of the street, if you have on-street parking, I mean, it was really interesting. If it's okay, I'll forward that article, just, you know, for future.
Let's put a pin in this thing. You develop it, rather than get bogged down in it. And Paul?
Very quickly, please. It's an easy fix. Salem Bay was the Bostick's, it was their farm. It's a bunch of open fields. They could have designed those lots in any manner. This body has purview over the site plan. You could design a narrower lot that has a little bit more depth. You can run a driveway right down the side of the house, and you can backload a garage into the mass of the house. The same way that they've done it, it's just that the garage is going to be on the back of the house. And they can have attached room above it, it's just on the back of the house. That allows the house to be pulled a little bit more to the street. It allows a better streetscape. And this comment, furthermore, it's not either or on the type door. It ought to be an architectural door regardless of whether it's on the back of the house or on the front of the house, and it could include some fenestration. So thank you, and I know that Kurt's going to work on it, but I think it's not that difficult to fix to make a tract development a little bit better, and those guys can come up with those plans.
And going back to Libby's comment, I think Libby made the comment. I think we should require single doors and not have the double doors.
And that's good. I mean, that's good. But I mean,
Just from a scale standpoint.
And
I need a single door for a double.
And in some communities, the rear entry garage is very commonplace. And I've been down the road with the arguments in communities about these, but I will tell you that it is more expensive even to do a rear entry garage. You're adding, just everything adds up. You know, you're adding pavement and stuff. I'm not opposed to any of these ideas, but I'm just saying if we want to make things more expensive, then there are a lot of ways to do that. And we're talking about some of those, and that's okay with me. I'm just saying, but we do sacrifice the affordability, and there are people that, you know, that's what they need, that's what they're looking for. And we don't have to be the affordable community, I guess, in Beaufort.
Okay.
We don't want to be, but Mike, this stuff is important, because I mean, once.
I know it is, but
To
we're
look at
gonna
the
discuss it again.
Okay.
It's gonna come up once
Yeah.
we get to review some of the other stuff, so I totally agree with it. If we move back down to 8, Roman numeral 3, it just says rocks. I would say stone instead of rocks. I don't know. Not a big deal. I just. You go down to 6, Roman numeral 6. We have decorative material, and we're wishy-washy. I would just say shall be used for pedestrian walkways. Same thing with Roman numeral 7. It says front yard trees should be of at least, I think. We want that, we should say shall. I think we talked about that as well.
Regarding the number 6.
Numbers,
Decorative material.
yeah,
Architecturally compatible. Material.
decorative material, and then I cross out the words, I can't read my words under that.
Oh.
What is it? Should be used is what I said instead of should be considered,
For the walkway.
yeah.
What is, I don't know what that means, architecturally compatible decorative material.
I don't have a clue either.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Well, if it has no meaning, we should take it out.
What are you actually thinking?
Are you
I'm
thinking of
it's
brick
remote, I know.
sidewalks when I see it things?
Well, maybe, what are they actually looking for? I mean, people do kind of brick sidewalks, or they, but you looking at, stamped concrete, or what are you looking at?
Compatible with what?
I think we took that out. I don't know why that, I don't know why
Took
that
it
was
all
there, to be
out?
honest.
take it.
I think, yeah, we took that out.
In other words, people can do whatever sidewalk.
I'm trying to think how I got that.
Chair, under the trees, we changed it to minimum 2.5 inch caliber.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
My next comments don't come until page 19.
Go back to the tree, I'm sorry about ornamental, It's a ornamental. There's story, understory,
So you like,
softwood,
no
hardwood.
nut trees, no fruit trees.
I mean, it's hardwood. Broadleaf overstory.
I suspect, I wonder if a landscape architect would understand that as a defined term that.
Ornamental, like a flowering. I don't know, but we,
Tulip tree,
yeah, we wouldn't mind if it's a live oak or a more.
yeah, I guess not, really.
Yeah, so maybe just, can we look at that? What's that? The ornamental.
Ornamental means blooming, like a crepe myrtle, instead of just a green, like just a tree that has green foliage. It's included. Something blooms.
It could be an understory or an overstory.
We could just say at least one tree.
Because I don't think we want to discourage oaks.
Yeah.
Let's just, that's.
The live oak in
Or maybe a different. word.
close to your house is.
Well, actually, they're the most stable tree. There it is.
I'm just saying, having one close to your home is. I just paid somebody a bunch of money this morning to come trim a live oak that was parked near my carport. They knew my existence.
I'm not gonna photograph that.
Yeah, but yeah, don't do that, don't do that. It won't go well. So we're gonna take out ornamental? Is there any reason we don't want a tree to be ornamental? I don't know.
Well, I just didn't know.
It's
the
an
meaning of
unnecessary
that.
restriction.
Well, according to Christopher, you're saying an ornamental tree is one that blooms, like crepe.
Yeah, that's the meaning of having at least one ornamental tree is.
It almost sounds like that was an intentional thing that somebody somewhere wanted, because.
Yes.
If that's what you want, then we'll take
No, I
out
just, the
ornamental.
terminology, I mean, I think of things as the broadleaf, an overstory, an understory, broadleaf, needle, softwood, I don't know, ornamental is just.
Well,
to that
Well,
term, but
it creates a street, I mean, it kind of, it kind of lends to a positive streetscape if you have crepe myrtles that bloom. Maybe in summer rather than having just dark
if we
green
want to
or
shade,
whatever.
then we need an overstory, but.
Well,
If it's a tree. Seems to be.
in our landscape section, we don't have anything about street trees and subdivisions.
We do.
And then why do we have it here?
Well, we don't have it required in your front yard.
Oh, we don't have a front yard requirement in our landscape regulations, I've already worked on it.
In the right of way, I think, probably. Yeah,
Well-
well, street trees would be in the right of way, and these are in there on the private property.
An ornamental tree is a tree cultivated for its aesthetic qualities such as beautiful flowers, interesting foliage, or attractive bark, rather than for a functional purpose like lumber or fruit. these trees are prized for their decorative value as guards and landscapes of structure and visual us.
I think the.
Sounds good to me.
Now it makes sense.
So I am happy for everybody to have a tree like that. I'm happy for the state environmental.
I mean, it's an architectural requirement, so we want to put that, we want to put it back now.
Great mark.
Okay, we're gonna.
Not a quick mark.
Yeah,
I am picky, yes, I have tree phobia, okay, I do have some tree phobias, crepe myrtle is one of them. I just paid a guy money to trim the crepe myrtle this morning.
Not right about, you know, that, but.
But red buds have never done anything to me, that's current.
All right.
Clinton approved it.
Does anybody have anything on page 18?
Now, this section, that on 18 is only dealing with 2 and 3 unit buildings, is that right? So in that paragraph 4, that's in our highlighted version here, I'm looking at one that's red, where it says for all developments. And in the middle of that paragraph, it says housing biodiversity for all developments, then it goes on, there will be no similar buildings placed, blah, blah, blah. We're only talking about for all developments with 2 and 3 unit buildings, is that right?
We're not talking about the buildings themselves having to have two different looking. Like a
Apparently they are.
1-story and a 2-story or.
So
We're talking about having diversity of elevation and design, or like a duplex, whatever.
So the way this reads, I'm just curious, because it says, so now we know it's only in a development of 2 and 3 unit buildings.
For more than not more than 5 buildings.
Then it says there will be no similar buildings placed next to each other along the street. And it says building design shall be considered similar unless they vary significantly, blah, blah. So if somebody brings a proposal to us for a 2 and 3 unit type development, we're gonna have to look at all of the building types to assure that, or otherwise we're leaving it to staff. Because typically in a larger development of those kind of buildings, they're not gonna come in with probably separate building permits. Are they gonna do it more like a small apartment community or something? You don't want the responsibility of having to judge every building type and negotiating with them whether they're similar or not, do you?
I mean, this is what we'd be proposing.
Or do they come to the planning commission when they come for their design review with the whole streetscape? That's probably what they would
I
need
mean,
to
I
do,
think
would
that's
you
the
think so?
intent here, is that they didn't have to do that if they were gonna do like a duplex development. But again, there are some, it is only for if you do at least 3 duplexes and not more than 5, you know, so. Yeah,
And the illustration
it's
that
not
you,
like if you just do a duplex, you're gonna have to.
But this only applies to small developments. Like if, this wouldn't apply to somebody with doing 50 triplexes, because you have a limitation in the first sentence. A development containing at least 3 duplexes or triplexes and not more than 5 buildings.
but then it,
It's less onerous to look at 5 or less
That's
buildings.
15. That's 15.
Yeah, but if you're looking at
Right.
5 buildings as opposed to 50 buildings.
right. But then it goes on to say for all developments, which I'm thinking that means for.
Let's highlight that, I don't think it meant to say 5,
Certainly, it's true.
yeah. It was meant to say, all, you know,
Greater than 3.
greater than 3.
Oh, so no limiting factor on the upside,
Okay.
just and so again,
Yeah, it was supposed to say, that's my error, at least 2 distinct, for such units containing more than 5 duplexes, there shall be 3. So if you have 3, you can just have 2 different sizes. If you have more than 5, then you have to have 3 different building designs.
And what does that mean, that last sentence? So such variation among buildings shall not consist solely of different combinations of the same building feature. I mean, you know, there's windows, there's doors, there's roof lines, I mean, you know,
I think
Okay.
I think maybe Jeremy and I contributed to some part of that at the end because I know there was a project that I don't think it ever went before the PC, but it was I think about 20 to 25 lots that were single family homes. It was a Clayton Homes development, and we kept pushing them to and they were the exact same identical house on each lot. And we were pushing for them to vary their building forms or roof types. And all they did was take this gable porch that was on the front of the building. They would switch it from one side on this house, and then the next house they would switch it to the other side. So they did the very minimum requirement by just, mirroring this porch that they had. And so I think that was the goal of this sentence, was to say you can't just slightly move around a porch form or, slightly take, just take this, two gang windows and make it one, and that counts as like a variation, if that makes sense. So I think we're trying to get to the point that they really need to change their roof form, their massing and their form to achieve this goal, instead of just taking these smaller little kind of added on things and changing it around. If that helps clarify.
We have a positive requirement saying, building variation must include variations as to mass and form.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a better probably way to say it.
agreed.
Nicholas, let's revise that. I think she got to it. But anytime you go through a tract build subdivision, if you look at it like the Benji model and the like Christopher model almost look exactly the same, but they'll call them a different elevation. You have to do where's one.
Yeah, and we've added that too to the
There's some
single
different
family.
ones, but it basically gives you the same impression.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it. So
Be careful.
So here,
so we'll just revise.
this again is in the section that deals with 2 and 3 unit houses. When you were talking about that Clayton home development and what they did, I'm familiar with that sort of thing, but we don't have any language like that in the prior section. Which is, if that's a concern, shouldn't we have some of the same kind of language in the prior section that says you can't do a subdivision where all the homes look
Yeah, so we've copied and pasted them. We've copied and pasted that section into the other ones.
Yeah, I think that section did have diversity.
Well, do we take that, well, does it say? Right, it takes into consideration.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on this iteration, but on the newest one, Jeremy and I, we added that section.
I don't think it's under number 4. I don't think that's what it said.
No, it was not in this.
I don't think
section.
we have a prohibition against repeat housing designs in a single family, and we may need to put, if that's what we're trying to accomplish, we need to put it there as well, don't we?
Yeah. And I would also maybe, like the previous, project that we reviewed, they varied their buildings just with the roof. But from the street level, they basically just look all the same. And you're not really gonna be able to see the roof that well. So I don't know if the roof, like the different roof forms is, the answer. Well, it might be, more than that.
Mhm.
Well, I'm assuming that we as the PC would deal with that throughout the entire approval process, and if we didn't like what we saw, we tell them to go back to the drawing board.
As long as we have the code provision that allows us to do that.
So I think we will.
Well, that's what we're adding.
Yeah, that's what we're adding.
So you need
Do you
to,
want to do that with single? Do you want to do that with single family?
well, I would say. If you want to do it in 2 and 3 family, why wouldn't you do it in single family?
But you mean the reviewing authority, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because that's single family becomes hard because why? Because it's a little different, right? They usually sell those, they build a suit, right? And they usually have like 20 or 30 elevations, and Bill comes in and he buys a lot, right? And he says, I want the Kim's plan.
And everybody wants the
Clinton
Ken
comes
plan.
in and he says, I want the Benji plan on this lot. And so that's gonna be impossible for, I think, planning commission to approve, because there's so much variation.
So if everybody picks the Ken plan, then you got everyone looks alike.
That's right.
I get
And
it.
so what we would have to do is we have to just have but you can't duplicate the models, every like maybe 3 or something, or not across the street. So, but that's gonna take the staff doing that, not the.
And then, yeah, you're right.
I mean,
You're right.
and
You're right.
maybe it's okay to have, 3 of the kin plans next to each other
They're very
or
powerful.
more, but it might have, different roof type, it'd be shingle, one would be shingle, one would be, standing seam, and then maybe one would have a different color, because the color would
That's
also,
a different architect.
yeah.
You have to,
You personalize it to how you want it to be.
Control that.
But let's see, so it says, for all developments, blah, 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 there shall be placed next to each other on that building shall be similar unless they vary significantly in footprint, size, and shapes. You wanna add roof form? And how would we add that?
I'd say like materials and color or something like.
So what that's really gonna require then is because your department is gonna be taking in these building permits, and so
We're gonna have to,
so you're gonna have to go out there and either pull the plans on
we're gonna have to have
a
like
lot one to see what's,
master
yeah,
diversity plan.
That's gonna be quite something.
We X'd out.
Could you require them to have a certain number of models based on number of buildings they're planning to build, and then put a quota on each, like they gotta pull that model from the choices for the customers.
That,
That'd be pretty hard to do per code though.
I think that's to be pretty onerous, because I do remember buying a home in a planned neighborhood many, many years ago, decades ago. And I remember that on one particular street, people were told, well, you can't build this model house because we got too many of them, or we got some side by side on the street. This was decades ago, so it's not.
I think you can just say architecture shall vary and there shall be no more than X similar architecture.
It's a struggle because it's a struggle because, people are gonna come in and inevitably, if a builder, I think, owns 4 or 5 different homes, there's always gonna be 1 or 2 that are gonna be more popular than everything else. And that's gonna be what everybody wants to build. So
Right.
the struggle is to kind of balance that against the need to have some architectural diversity. And I guess the only other way to diversify that would be to maybe diversify the facade, or the exterior design with the same interior floor plan.
Yeah.
Well, and the
Well, that's what-
landscaping
That's common, they
and
can do that.
those kind of things
So,
differentiate.
so I mean, just so I can, does everyone like the idea of having diversity?
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out functionally how to do it. It sounds like we need to work on this a little bit more.
Okay.
Both how we're functionally gonna process it. I think I have an idea how we do that. But to keep it not too onerous. Consider materials and form and I think we'll make some revisions. So maybe we should have those highlight after that. And we'll do it.
Next comment goes onto page 19, number 7. Yeah. And this is more of a general comment. Whenever we use offsets in order to change architecture, my opinion is that there should be a minimum of 24 inches. Anyhow, anything less than that is inconsequential.
Does that sound good to you, Maria?
Mhm.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
put it in there.
So I would use that throughout the entire,
24.
because it'll come up a lot.
Yeah.
and just going back on 4, since we've addressed that diversity on single family and on 2 and 3, you just may want to review this one again on the townhomes to see if you got the language right, or if you want to get it more consistent with the other, that's all.
Apartments have the same kind of thing too.
Mhm.
Whatever.
And just from a consistency standpoint, number 8 does have 18 inches already in there. So like I said, sometimes it varies. We just need to be consistent. Since we're saying 18 inches.
Can we put that in my note, says the single family right on 18 inches?
That,
Yeah, we
We
did
did
that.
that already, right?
that's all I have on 19. Moving on to 20.
We got 4.5.7. Apartment now,
We're on townhouse, row house.
still in townhouses.
Yeah, we're 4.5%. We just finished.
Oh, yeah, I know what it does.
So there's the housing model diversity, very similar, so 3 rows and then 5 buildings, so, let's just highlight that and we'll consider that as we did last time. We'll work on that letters.
Yeah, and
Bring something back.
7 and 8, we just need to make those comply with what we've already.
So the offsets of 24 inches there.
Yeah. And if you go down to 9, 9B, Roman numeral 2, A, again, I'll make that consistent with what we've already been talking about.
Jeremy and I have been working on some changes for the garage as well. Just that section in general, and kind of copying and pasting some stuff. So we can send that along too.
Okay.
Trying to keep that language kind of consistent. I think the only thing that would vary is, if you had like a townhouse development or something and you had a row of detached or attached garages, but yet they're attached to each other on like a rear alley or something like that. I think there would be special requirements for that. So, but we're trying to put those in each section to keep it consistent, if that makes sense. So I think some of this will probably just kind of be edited a little bit anyways.
But the whole purpose of this, the garage section, is if you see it occasionally with the tract built townhouse subdivision, you'll see like rows or even apartment complex, you'll see rows of the garages that are just like 100 feet long or more, and it's like a wall of garage, and it's not terribly effective because often there'll be someone on the other side of it staring at it throughout their front window or back. So
Mhm.
trying to kind of do something. That's the goal.
And
Well, like Margaret, with the Margaret apartments, they have, again, that was before us. I think they did an okay job where they put them, but, we're trying to get a little more variation. Sorry.
Mhm.
and there's 2 different lengths of buildings in here. Some places it says 30 feet, no more than 30 feet, and other places it says 35 feet. So we need to be consistent when we're doing that, and just pick one or the other. I think, don't know that it makes a lot of difference. I don't have anything else on 21.
Again, there's reference to slab on grade and.
Yeah.
I would take that out like we did.
That'll,
Yeah,
that'll
they'll make it consistent. Yeah. All right, so we'll work on the garages, so you might. Townhouse, we'll come back to that. Good yellow. Sorry. Yeah. We don't miss it.
and if you go on to page 22, you get down to D, maximum continuous facade. Again, that's 40 feet. Again, pick 30 or 35 feet.
So are you on the apartments now, Mike? So everybody knows where we're at? Are you
Yes.
moving on? Okay, so 4.5.7.
Mike, I had comments on 4.57 special requirements that are sent. Sure. Balconies, you and Josh, we'll do something with that.
I think we're gonna bring the forecourt back.
Bring it back.
I mean, 'cause I think we were talking about those 4-yard apartments.
Yeah, we're gonna have stoop forecourt balcony. And then porches.
What's the sentence after that? Because mine shows everything struck out, porches are not permitted,
Yeah,
that's all
I think
stricken.
it's
And
going
then the
away.
building,
Porches are going away.
So that whole sentence about porches is out.
Well, I think that's the current proposal.
so after it just says porch, stoop, forecourt, balcony, what does it say about them then? Is there a sentence?
We'd have to create one because there wouldn't be.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have anything.
Well, I mean, then to define what those are, then you go to the building type section. You know, say like the porch is the minimum of so wide and so and so deep, a stoop is same.
All I'm saying is if it's a special requirement, this says frontage types, porch, stoop, forecourt, balcony, and it ends.
Oh, except or balcony maybe.
No, I'm just thinking it ends, it doesn't tell us what about those. Is there anything there?
I think it's just intended to say that those are a required.
Those that are allowed,
frontage.
Right.
those would be allowed
Yeah.
frontage types.
So that we should say that,
What
the
should-
allowed
should make-
frontage types are.
Make it into a sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have the three items.
I assume we would make that change to all of the special requirement frontage type sections. Because I think that's in every.
Yeah, it's in every one of it.
Yes.
Mhm.
On that page, the next page, down to house module approach.
Really? Which section?
Right now we have module, with prefer 18 feet to 30 foot recommended.
C one.
Yes, I'm sorry, C1.
Applicability and thresholds applies to all elements.
Is that what you're at?
No, that's A, then B, C.
We're looking at
We're
different.
looking at different,
I'm looking at what he handed out today,
Oh.
and what he handed out was
Oh, yeah, that's-
4.5.7 A, B, C. Are you on C applicability and threshold?
Well,
Yeah, he's Mike's like working on.
we're on two different things.
That's of course. No, I know. I'm looking for wherever.
It's D one on the new one.
Don't have that.
D
We
one,
won. Well,
house module approach.
right.
Okay.
Massing and scale. Mandatory. Yeah, it's on page 22, it's D on the revised one.
Massing and scale D, there we go. I see it. And then under that section one, house module approach.
So I guess,
Maybe you can solve, or you could say the thought process here on module width.
House module approach.
I guess I don't really, you know, I'm not an architect, of course, but every building facade visible from a public right of way must be expressed as a set of discrete modules that read like individual houses. So that means if you've got a fourplex, you have individual houses stacked on top of each other, or?
No, I think, each side by side, with.
Okay, we're talking
Of the, building.
horizontal.
That's, that's correct for you. So this is kind of a goal to make apartments look more like. It's almost like kind of a French theme, like, it's more, they look more, like houses.
So if you did have a fourplex with 2 units on the bottom and 2 on the top, it would look like, from the street, it would look like 2 houses.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but it's so
Yes.
the 30 foot would be, each section will look like that specific house, actually, which is the module. So that's
Yeah.
what we.
Yeah,
That's what
I think I think the goal is to get away from this conglomeration of ins and outs and, little gables here, big hip here, and nothing really looks aligned, and to simplify these forms as much as we possibly can. Also
Well,
get away from the breezeway. Just not have that. So it all just becomes simple forms with simple roof lines.
I don't have a problem with it, I just want.
Well, I can't
somebody to
visualize
explain
it.
what you were,
I mean,
what
this,
the concept
could be-
was, that's all.
I think what they're asking is, can we both maybe highlight this? And I think they need like a graph.
Right.
Yes.
We need a
Yeah.
graph.
We found a couple examples
I can't
up in
think.
Daniel Island. We can add those photos too.
I mean, would we wanna go as far as, this, not this, or not this, without,
I mean, that's a thought.
I'd like to see what they're thinking.
I
don't
think
know
that's
what
a
you
good
do with
idea,
an
at least
8
not
foot wide,
this, yeah, I like that.
18 foot wide.
Mhm.
What we're thinking is to, the new apartment complexes that you see that were, they're very monolithic, right? We're trying to,
Right.
right,
So that's the
something
goal.
advanced, not this.
because I think that was the intent of this code originally. And, to make the forecourt and everything and trying to have the private, but it just didn't go far enough and it essentially by the developer and a bad review and so it like regular apartment buildings that you see
Okay.
in Iowa, right?
Yeah, I just want to see what.
So the one we
what-
just reviewed last week,
Right, for,
we'd never see that one again.
No, they have the individual.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, we worked with them with some of these changes and they were pretty amenable to.
Using this language would not prohibit what we've shown last, right?
Yeah, I think that what they were showing would work. That's the Grove, Maria, so
Oh, yeah. They still have some.
picture on the wall, but it was almost there.
Yeah. We're trying. It's been a lot of back and forth.
I think that one still had like a repetitive pattern, but I think if they just break it up and not make it repetitive, because it's like,
Yeah.
port hand here, lap siding here, and then it happens again, eventually. It's like a mirror image of each other, so it.
Yes. And they're still trying to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe they've changed something drastically, but I think they still have the breezeway and, they've been working on trying to get their fenestration percentages and I think moving forward, that type of project, we're trying to get away from that type of project with these changes. And it definitely looks better, I will say, than what they first came with.
So my point was that we probably wouldn't see what we saw a week or two ago again, if this
Yes.
was standard.
Yeah, I think if they have like.
Yes.
You were saying like a visual reference, I think.
I think that they would not be this standard.
Right.
Are we talking about
Well,
ones that have the access problems?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you interpret it.
Thanks, but I think the answer is no.
okay, moving on. The next one I have is D0. And it's just go ahead and you have 40 feet there, go back to the 35 foot standard, whatever we determine it will be.
Okay, well, let's just highlight that, Nick, and just make a highlight that we have to justify the 35. Yeah, let's make it out.
Okay.
Where are you?
That's what you're supposed to be doing. A good architect is supposed to do all that stuff, you know it?
All right, is everybody okay with all this so far? Because we're really adding a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna make it a little more difficult for them, but, all right.
We'll go on to page 23 M. Again, that's another 2 foot offsets. 24-inch offsets. I go on to page 24.
Hold on, Mike.
Okay.
Where did you see, I think we're just trying to find.
What letter?
M.
What's
It's in Bureau
What's the title of it?
and articulations that read as individual homes. I would insert there, articulations, with minimum 2 foot offsets. I'm talking about articulations. Articulations is the same as offsets.
I think our Jeremy and I will also just simplify this too, so that it's not we're not at section like N. I think we can sort of simplify a lot of this down into I think it's just redundant. A lot of sections are kind of repeated just with slightly different wording. So we can simplify that.
Um,
Why do we have, the color and texture requirement here? Use soft muted palettes. Why would this be different than the palettes, or is it different than the palettes that are used throughout the city?
For apartment complexes.
Yeah.
I think just have their scale and I think, you know, a dark color, I think just really. Just has much more of an impact, I think, than the personal because of the size of it. You know, I think some of the new ones that you see are like painted really dark blue. I mean, that's. Maria, you feel free to.
Yeah, no, I think this was I think this can honestly be deleted. I think we kind of cover materials. It says materials palette and then color and texture. I mean, that's already included in 4.6.3 and 4. So again, I think that can just kind of I think it's recommendations, but you know, if we end up getting, I think, to a situation where there's 5 different colors, we can bring that up to the applicant individually. But, you know, I think this is again just redundant, so we can just simplify that and delete it if that works for everybody.
So just procedurally, is city staff gonna do this rewrite, or are Maria and Jeremy gonna do this?
They're gonna send me some of their ideas and then I'll rewrite it. And that's the confusion as today because I didn't have a chance to. So I wrote the whole first draft and then I sent it to Metters. And then the second draft, I added some of the Metters stuff into the code to the format of it. Does this make sense? He's good at formatting. I get the language, good at science. We're kind of a three-way system going on, so I think we got to decide what we're gonna do with the next. When we come back with these, if we just keep them all as yellow, because you've seen them all, so we'll rewrite it, put it into the code language, keep it as yellow. That makes sense, because that's something that you've looked at. And you've had concerns about, so it'll just be highlighted yellow. Does that make sense? But it'll be new language. Does that make sense for everybody? So I don't know how else to do this. Well, think about it. Let's think about it before the end of the meeting. Because
Well, whatever you
it's pretty
decide to do,
confusing.
just give us a key of what we're looking at. You know, it really matters less about whether you
That's
highlight
you.
or use a color. You just need to let us know what they mean.
Okay, moving on to page 25. Well, and for those of you who don't go by pages, program and unit types. And it's a mix of unit types. And I'm wondering what this means. At least 30% of the units will be 1 bedroom or smaller. And 25% 3+ bedrooms to support household diversity. And I guess the remaining percentage is 2 bedrooms, but does this work? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure this works. You know.
That's where we're at in our community.
Well, we're interfering with the marketplace an awful lot already.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Do we want to go there? I don't know.
I wonder how this fits into a low income tax credit formulas. They have a
Yeah.
specific.
All right, well, let's just highlight it.
I would get rid of it.
That I would definitely, just because,
Developers are gonna wanna develop
But they
based
can
on
sell.
market.
yeah.
Or, I mean, if 3+ bedrooms is something that's in short supply, you can always add some sort of incentive, which I don't know what it is, but if you have at least a certain percentage of 3+ bedrooms, family units. Yeah. Right.
I don't,
I don't know what that would be, but
does the consultant have a reason that they think this should be in here?
I did not write that, so I deleted it in the new changes we did. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure why it was there in the first place.
okay, all right, good, so it's deleted.
I think that was Jeremy, right? Cause I didn't write that either.
Well, he's not, Jeremy didn't hear.
Jeremy's not here, so we're just gonna put it on.
Oh, I'm not Jeremy.
That's not my,
Yeah.
my language, I'm usually, you know, I write too many words.
Keep going down then to design exceptions, administrative relief. You go down to garages. I think all of this stuff
That's
is
all mine.
repetitive again
It's repetitive.
and needs to be consistent all the way through there. And then if you keep going down, you get to articulation, and again, articulation would be 24 inches. We've already talked about that.
Well, these are unique, these garages, we're now talking about apartment buildings, so I think you have to have. It's not gonna be the same as single family or 2 and 3 unit. It might be similar to the townhomes, I guess. I don't even know that, though. We're probably not building large apartment complexes with garages, are we?
Most of them seem to have parking lots.
No, I said parking garage, some of them have,
mhm,
the one we saw last week didn't have any garages, did it?
it did. Some garages last week.
Oh, the Grove, yeah,
I don't think it had any.
Okay.
Like the Rose Bowl over there.
Yeah, no,
It's hard to read, except the name of it does, yeah.
where's that, which one, I
On
don't,
170.
4,000 Margaret.
pardon?
4,000 Margaret.
Were they detached garages, or are they part of the, I think they're detached garages.
You can see
That's
them.
different, those are within a parking lot that is screened from the.
In the Point Grand and the Watercrest, Point Grand has garages going in. I think they were pretty well done. I think some of you were on.
So-
Watercrest does too.
So on this one, dealing with apartment buildings, the question would be, where we say no street facing facade shall contain more than 4 garage fronts, maybe we don't want any garage fronts on the street size of an apartment building.
Let's write that down.
Wouldn't you think that's more what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Well, having a garage front.
The entry sentence.
I mean,
You know, if you're trying to make an apartment building
No street facing.
look like it's made up of different types of houses, a garage is a possible way of differentiating the look.
I just don't know if they're doing that. I think they're providing, when they provide garages, there are these sort of garage sheds that are in the parking.
Long, yeah.
Long building,
Long
you know,
series
and
of-
as long as they're screened from the buildings, we don't see them from the street frontage. We'd probably be very sympathetic to those.
Yeah.
But we just say none facing this street.
And I'm pushing
And then-
forward.
So where it says resident garages, or internal is encouraged, that's fine. I guess you can say it's encouraged. But, okay. As long as they know what we're looking at here. These people are making the changes.
We'll revise that. All right, I'm gonna go down to the, pick around both work.
Good work, thanks.
Frontage style, we'll have to check that, shower.
Okay, if we go to live work mixed use, you go down to special requirements. We're dealing with offsets and 24-inch offsets. the thing that, here's something that I disagree with that's in here in a lot of places. And this may be one of the first places that I saw this. But it says, it substitutes the architecture for landscaping. I do not agree with that at all. Landscaping cannot substitute for architecture. Landscaping
Is landscaping.
die and do whatever, right?
Well, it's true.
All the way through these code revisions, we do have, as a relief, you could plant some stuff instead of an architecture. So I would like to see all of that gone. If the board would agree with that.
Where are you reading it?
Okay, if you go down to, special requirements 8A. Says windows, stepping, of wall planes, and that would be another 24 inches, and or landscaping accomplishing the same effect are required to satisfy the standard.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, you can.
Landscaping doesn't satisfy it.
Yeah, landscaping is not architecture. No.
I think that needs to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
The next B is got the same thing, unless they determine that there's adequate landscape. It's sealed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Yeah, you see it all the way through here, so.
yeah,
you know,
I'm not sure where that came from, but I've already started kind of cleaning that up.
It was a landscape architect put it in.
All was just gonna put photocards everywhere.
It's my favorite new plant.
It is, and,
I'm going on to liner buildings, if nobody has anything else.
What page?
Liner buildings are on page 28.
Page 27.
27 in the one that was handed.
4.5.9.
Okay.
Big jump.
28.
so we did put in at 16 feet. And so the height. And I think they have examples they were gonna add future. We talked about Mount Pleasant where they had some. That's something we'll need to add.
Yeah, I'm not, I guess I wanted to have some discussion on 5 depth. We've got detached line building shall have a 25-foot minimum depth. I guess it shall have. So, and then there's later on in that same sentence that would be go to different. Paul, what do you?
Well, on that specific one, I think that I can't really understand, a minimum of 12 feet. The only liner building I can think of is the Publix on Ladies Island, but I believe those liners facing Seattle Parkway are quite a bit deeper than just 12 feet. So I don't know that that makes really any sense. I had a couple of other points on this page, if you'd like me to go to that, or I can wait.
Well, let's talk about the depth. I think Kurt had somebody had shown us some photographs of different depth lines.
Roof line.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of the liner building.
Are they?
But,
Yeah.
but they were different depths.
Are you talking about the depth of the building or the setback? There's no such thing as a 12-foot deep building, is there?
No, I think that's what,
Well, it's
the liner, if it's attached to like the building that's lining. So like the storage building that we were reviewing, that had a 12-foot liner, which is just a line of office spaces, basically. And the hallways between the storage and the office rooms. Does that make sense?
What's in the space between the 12-foot office and the storage unit?
Hallway.
Well, it's all part of the same building.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what that 12-foot is, if it's attached to that same building. But if it's detached, it's 25.
Well, that's, again, confused because it talks about attached building. It's all one building. It's just with the front of the building. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like there's a marketability to a 12-foot wide office in front of a hallway. I don't understand.
Fit a
Yeah,
desk
I think
behind
that's
your
where
chair.
that storage ended up as they just put it there, and I'm not
Chair
sure
behind your
they're
desk.
used it at all.
I think that's part of
just-
Paul's points.
Well, I would recommend if it's an attached ladder, I would think that a minimum of 20 to 25 feet in depth would be necessary for it to be a usable space.
Right.
If it's a detached liner, then even 25 feet is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
Inadequate.
Right.
So, I would think, does anyone happen to know, maybe you may have approved the Publix on Lady Dawn, do you happen to recall the depth of that ladder? It may not be 25 feet, I don't know.
Yeah.
Got a nail salon, a pizza shop.
Yeah, I don't know.
But those seem to function quite well,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So whatever that depth is for an attached liner, that seems to work. Maybe
Yeah.
it's 20, 25 feet.
I think there needs to be a little research done on that. 12 doesn't make any sense unless it's just an arcade.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think the idea was that it might not be used, and we were getting into situations where, you know, it's creating a ridiculous result where they didn't really want to have anything there.
right,
So they were using it for storage or just empty space.
Yeah.
And so we were, as long as it looked different, we were willing to limit it down. And so that's where this came from. So, but if you feel like it should indeed create space, like the oil change, it's like a good example. Or those the car wash that kind of went away. They were just gonna have that rough liner that wasn't that wide, and putting it to 25 feet, but they were just gonna use it as storage. And so I think that was the goal, was to maybe lessen that impact on development. But if you're not feeling that, we can rethink it.
What is let's stop for a second. What is the purpose of a liner building? I thought the purpose of a liner building is to shield the big parking lot from an anchor store behind it. And what we're talking about over at the Publix at Ladies Island isn't really a liner building. It's just a store for some independent stores along the side of the building.
right.
I mean, we should know what a liner building is. A liner building are like the buildings that went up at the New Beaufort, whatever we call station, right?
Well, if you look at the description though,
Right.
it's in the description, and it can conceal surface or structural parking or large scale commercial buildings. Looking at Publix there, the pizza parlor, nail salon, et cetera, they do shield that great big public store,
But I
from
don't,
that perspective.
but was that required there?
Because I
But
think
is
it
it-
was, because it was a big box.
So they had to put, make that building deeper at that point essentially and put independent retail buildings along that facade because it was facing a
It's
public
attached,
street.
isn't it?
It is, I believe so, I believe it's attached, and this was before the form-based code, but there were still design standards, and I think the issue was it was a big box, and to avoid the facade, a blank facade, they were, the DRB at the time they came up with this idea of putting usable space there, so there's.
I just never heard of that referred to as a liner building.
And it is,
But I think could be considered one, just for the reasons. that-
Right, so they're both towers.
and there's a picture of it.
I don't think it's liner, but I believe it's, I don't know, like in terms of construction.
Right,
But I don't think there's any separation really.
No.
The Publix and those storefronts, let's say.
No, that's their standard prototype, grocery store, and it just merely the addition of those buildings because it faced the primary.
Because it's street, the primary street.
Yeah, and so, it works. I mean, those tenants have all been there for years. They seem to be successful. They got parking. So I think in that application, a ladder building could be considered attached and with a minimum depth, but I don't understand 12 feet linear.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, should we require it to have a separate entrance than the main structure? I think that what's happening on these really small,
That's a pretty good example of how they could work in that application on that store over there, though.
Well, and they all have separate
Right,
entrances, which is required to be able to rent them.
And then you have the little, the parallel parking in front of them, it was a drive, it isn't, it's like a little.
No, it turned out to be very nice, yeah.
Say there.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
how about we work on this? So are there other things that we were doing the pedestrian activation a little further
What
down?
about that height? Is
The
that
one
tall
story,
as
the
well?
16 foot, if you did the pedestrian activation with at the end. So can we highlight all that, like the depth, Nicholas, and we can work on that. And just maybe put a note about it.
Yeah, because I think the 12 or 16-foot arcade in front is much less expensive thing than a liner that may never be used. And you can go ahead and use that to shield a big box based on the height, type of roof forms that you have going up against it. So I wouldn't discount that part of it.
Yeah, you did that with Revo Station, remember?
But I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be a liner.
If you remember the thing on Revo Road, the bowling alley that.
Well, yeah.
That's how it's being.
Well, just by way of example, just take Paul, pretend for a second that the Spanish Moss Trail was a public street alongside your building there. There wouldn't have been room to build a liner building alongside your building. I mean, because your property was only as big as it was, but you could have potentially put an arcade along there.
Could have put an arcade along
Yeah.
there.
So, and the arcade doesn't have to be, what's the width of an arcade? Probably not even 12 feet, probably
You could have.
8
yes.
feet or something.
Was an arcade just that big?
It's just like a
It's a covered sidewalk.
covered sidewalk,
sidewalk.
but it's an architectural feature that it
It's up, that's.
contemplates pedestrians walking along there and
So
so forth.
good place for a hot dog stand.
But I think
Next.
the line of building is supposed to, activate
Mhm.
the street as well.
Right.
So it can't just be like an architectural element.
No, but I'm just saying, if your lot is, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you could get into this, I'm trying to take a situation where if Spanish Moss Trail there happened to be a public street there. Paul only had so much width there, he never would have been able to fit a Publix there if he had to have a 25 or 50-foot liner building along that public street. I mean, there are some practical limitations. And so, what are we trying to do? We're trying to create some architectural interest, right? Other than a blank wall. And so that's what we're trying to address. And how do you do that taking into account the different lot sizes and all that sort of thing, right?
So I'm thinking about Harris Teeter.
Yeah.
There's parking, there's the old Publix parking lot is, pretty much the same as it was when it was a Publix. But then there's the side parking there, before you get to the gas station, and there's no liner building over there.
Along this,
Well, here, okay,
no, they're in on the public street. The only facade is, there's only one.
It was reviewed on the old development code of Ireland.
Okay.
Again, I'm just passing on because this was a controversy. It was reviewed in the 20s.
How could it have been, it's not that old. How was it reviewed under the old code?
I don't know.
But that one is the investigation.
It was approved a long time ago and they,
This didn't build.
yeah, right, exactly. Remember on the headlines, when's it, is it coming, is it going? Is it still-
10
yeah.
years.
I would say, yeah.
So they got their construction plans approved many years before they actually built it. And
Oh, yeah.
usually a building permit is only
Well, not
good
the
for
building,
like
they got
6
the
months.
GRB approval, right.
Remember before you changed the code, you had 8 years.
busted practice.
Oh.
And then you
And
did
then
right.
they do,
A long time.
on their site plan, they do have a liner building shown, like a potential future liner building, you know,
Yeah, there is.
and there's,
Attached.
But it's not built.
it's not
Right.
built
Why did they
So
show it?
how can you do it?
to get approved.
How do you get?
Well, I think these are good examples of why we're getting into this level of architectural change, right? We're adding all of these things, and I know that might seem onerous to the designers, but I think giving them clarity and you having clarity and certainty of what you want is better than what happened in the past. When
But that-
adding all of this, and then there's all this confusion with the boards, and so they have to go to the board at all these times, and yet they're not getting the product that you really want out of it.
I think that'd be a master plan, that's probably is a good one. I mean, in terms of utilities, and at some point, I mean, these island development and that kind of a thing, it could generate enough demand for some outbuildings there. And if you have the utilities there and the parking and that kind of a thing, it's just our land values, I guess,
No, that's fine, I just mean, but if there's a requirement that you have, for example, a storefront along a public street or some kind of liner building, but they just never build that part of it, that's not appropriate.
Can you make them build the liner buildings first?
I think Harris Teeter and a lot of developers would say, I don't do, I'm a grocery store. I don't do a nail salon, that's what you might hear. So, I mean, if you're trying to get things
They have a
going, you say,
bar.
well, we got a plan. I know, for serious. Got a plan for it. I think the utilities for these other parcels are in. That was another issue, but like this.
Paul?
But if that's not.
Well, if I may, I've asked Adam Beery with Beaufort Design Bill to try to create a computer model of a scape based on our prior conversation at the last meeting where Jeremy and Maria were describing those out parcel buildings in Charleston. And so I've asked Adam to prepare a computer model. I know he's reached out to Jeremy, the holidays were on us, and so they haven't got it ready yet. But it could address these issues that we're talking about right now. And there were two other points that I wanted to talk about. And with your permission, I'll send my ideas to Kurt if he's going to be reviewing this along with Adam's consultation with Metters, so that we'll have something that we can actually look at to sort of describe. But I wanted to also mention the frontage build out. I'd like to propose that there be the design review body or administrator have the ability. So for example, if you had a little plaza on the side of the building that might be covered, or it might be surrounded with a wall, that would be outdoor seating and that sort of thing, then perhaps all or at least some of that might be counted towards your frontage build out. I also wanted to mention that I understand how important it is for pedestrian access directly from the public sidewalk. But in some cases, you can provide a direct access right off the sidewalk, but it might need to go into a door on the corner or a door on the side, and perhaps not directly into the facade itself. In a lot of cases, it can do that. But I'd like to address that point as well. And then, of course, the height issue that was really one of the main focuses of what Adam was going to propose. So the only other thing that I had was just going on the next page because I was confused by on page 29 there, B3, 4.5.10 B3. Wait a minute, no, I'm wrong about that. I beg your pardon. Go back to the bottom of page 28, which is B number 10. And so there we're bringing up the concept of a a pedestrian activated plaza in front of the building, which is precisely what Adam is working on now and is planning to consult with Maria and Jeremy on. But 24 feet in depth seems to be a bit much. I would propose that, maybe 12 feet would be more appropriate, and then with some landscaping in front to also break up from the public sidewalk. But again, I'm happy to send my thoughts to Kurt if that's appropriate and copy everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
please,
thank you.
please do. Okay,
Let's highlight that. Yeah. We'll work on it.
structured parking. Now we're at 32.
I think we're on large footprint building actually.
4.5.10.
Oh, document.
Yeah, that's 4.5.1. Yeah, this is, we're next to 3.5.
We're in the section before that, 4.5%. Large footprint. Building.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, I skipped it. Or equipment. I really didn't have anything. I didn't have anything on, that's page 30.
Oh, okay.
Other than the stuff that we're carrying forward.
So it looks like there was a change to lower the size of what's considered a large footprint from 20,000 to 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That was changed. I didn't have a problem with that.
And then there's
We're also
one
adding
particular-
RMX for liner buildings. That's a pretty big change.
So.
We need to do liner buildings and RMX.
So for example, Boundary Street is, Walgreens on Boundary Street. That would be considered a large footprint building under this, right? And you're gonna have to do a liner building, you have to do a liner building, if you did that, develop that site over again.
Or you have to have one attached.
Well, it's a pretty deep lot. There's a lot of space in the back there.
If you did it over, the other, close to the street, it wouldn't be back in that parking lot.
Well, it says.
Right, be whole different.
It wouldn't have been allowed in, yeah, right. Well, as Libby was saying, it wouldn't be allowed the way it was built in the first place, but you can do the liner to it, but
it is built, if it is built up to the street.
Then you don't have to, but if you have any parking, well, you really, the only practical way to do it is.
I mean, there is an
Well, I mean, there's a
exception.
street with a
You can
signal
do the
on
footprint provides an entry on the primary street footage and a
East side
minimum
of
of
that.
40% glazing along the street, the line not required, so it's a pretty big exemption. So you basically make your large footprint building your liner. So,
In other words, just bring it up to the street,
that's right.
and then you gotta rearrange.
Demonstration.
So that went in before the code. So it should be like the McDonald's, it should be up on the street, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. But then that wasn't the case for the Chick-fil-A.
That was also proposed.
That was also the old code. Because it was, go ahead.
That's not right. I did a FOIA request on that Chick-fil-A. That Chick-fil-A was approved as T5UC, and I've got the boards. I mean, I can bring them in. I don't understand. That was another one that under the prior administration that got through. But even council thinks that, but the permit was issued as T5UC, which is only a designation under the Beaufort Code. The former UDO, it was HC, highway commercial. So the confusion, I think, comes from the fact that there was a prior minor permit issued for Chick-fil-A. And then there was subsequently massive redevelopment, which included the city selling the lot to facilitate the double drive-through that goes around. Now, this is all the truth. And it's pretty amazing how that happened, but that's what happened.
So you're saying that under the code in existence at the time that was permitted, it shouldn't have been allowed like that.
I'm telling you exactly that. That's
what
exactly correct.
But people want Chick-fil-A.
This seems to be something that just happened repeatedly. I mean, it seems like there's so many examples that we just keep bringing up, but all we can say is that it happened.
Just to clarify, I think there was a Chick-fil-A there and that under the whatever, RX or the old code. And then the new code came and then they did the renovation. And then how did one lane go to two and all that?
Was it sitting on the corner and then they sold that to Chick-fil-A? That's what.
Oh, the Chick-fil-A
It's a
was
brand new
there, but
building.
then this Boundary Street redevelopment.
Not only was here before, the city of Beaufort facilitated double drive-through by selling that piece of property where Chick-fil-A's to the west side of the building for $35,000. They sold that piece of property to Chick-fil-A for $35,000.
That's pretty good, right?
The only reason that Chick-fil-A was then able to come in after the fact and do the double drive-through.
Paul, what was the size of the property that was sold? What were the dimensions? $35,000 piece of property.
The dimensions, I can't tell you, Kim.
I thought they were small. I thought it was like a non-usable piece, and that justified the sale and the,
It had some use. It had some utility. The city built the road at its expense as a part of the boundary, coming in on the back by the dumpsters. The only thing Chick-fil-A had to do, I've been amazed by this particular one, honestly, I've got a full file. If anyone is interested on the side, I've got I mean, it's that thick. I can show you all the facts. It's pretty amazing.
so where does Culver's fit in this? Are they too small to require a liner building?
So that
That was existing. So
Well,
they
it was,
They ran
did a renovated,
so that wasn't considered,
Well, we require them to put the drive-through on the rear,
okay,
but otherwise, it's an existing.
okay.
We did require the whole drive-through to kind of all circulate, and I think it did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Culver's in Illinois. And we're.
Yeah.
And we concept, welcome to all those frozen cottage and all. This much your license.
May I ask a question on this section? Is that possible?
Okay.
I'm interested in the, 4.5.10 large footprint, and when you go down to 5 location in the historic district except along Boundary Street, these are permitted by special variance on. Why would we allow a large footprint building in the historic district to start with? And why would we allow a special exemption? And why would that not have to go through the historic review board? Maybe somebody.
So where are you at?
Where are you at exactly?
Right here.
If you go to section 4.5.10 large footprint buildings, and you go down to section B, special requirements,
Okay.
enumerated 5 location.
Okay.
And it says in the historic district, except along Boundary Street, these are permitted by special exemption only. Why would you even allow a large footprint building in the historic district? And why would it not have to go through the historic review board? If you were going to allow one to be in his, this is much less restrictive than if you had to go through the historic review board.
You would go through.
You would have.
But that kind of state
But you'd
that.
have to get a special exception the zoning board first and then have to go to the HRB.
And that's easy.
The HRB will be the design review board, or basically act as the.
Okay, so,
Any even new development.
so they would come to city council, ask for a special
They
exemption,
go to the zoning board.
zoning board and ask for a special
And then
exemption.
they would go to the HRB.
They
Or they
would
get
have-
to-
Okay, it just wasn't clear to
They
me.
go to the one first and then.
Okay,
But yeah, I mean, if you think that's not.
I just don't know why you even allow a large. I don't even know why you would allow one in the historic district personally, but that's, I was just trying to get some clarification. Good point. I mean, you know, if you wanted to all of a sudden decide the historic district where the old jail is, you want to put a large footprint building in. I mean, seriously, you know, you really gonna allow that? I mean, is that what we want to see happen? I don't think so.
Maybe add that to the list of your committee.
Yeah,
I mean, that's.
Do you want us to highlight that and kind of think about?
Yeah.
I think the point is a fair one.
Are there any 10,000, are there any, well, right now it's 20,000 square feet, but are there any 20,000 square, do you know, Louis, if there's any? I can't think about the top of my head.
Make the UPS store.
UPS building, that's federal.
For the US.
In the school. Yeah, the elementary school.
What about where the?
I mean, you're talking about more than 10,000.
Well,
Tabby,
I was look it up.
What about where it's Bridges School? Where I know about
Oh,
if
that's,
the.
yeah, that.
But it's on a boundary.
Yeah.
Right. It's on Boundary Street, and this language,
Let's highlight.
yeah, we can highlight it, accepts Boundary Street.
Oh,
I mean, I think they kind of thought about this, and that's why they restricted the special exception, so I'd have to get an extra approval, but.
I just don't know why you let it be anyway.
Then it goes to the zoning board of appeals, and they're probably not the best board to be deciding whether a large building should be in the storage district. You know what I mean? That
There's
there's
still
still.
gotta be.
No offense to them, but that's an unfair decision. for them.
Where the jails, the old jail is, isn't there?
That's not really good.
there was some building, at least now, but they wanted to do some kind of apartments in there, didn't they? I don't know what the status of that
Condo
is.
complex, going out of the old jail. Is that still?
Did they ever get
is that on the
approved for that?
Yeah, we got approved by the HRB.
They're just waiting for their tax credit still, I think.
Yeah, so that's great. They got renewed, I think, just to, state fund. Well, do you want us to highlight that and think about that? Because,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
I think we need.
I don't think there are any
I
20,000
think we
square
need
foot
to
buildings,
backtrack.
so take it out.
What is the definition size now? That was
20,000.
It's 20,000 feet, but you're reducing it to 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is it possible for a 10,000, again, this is a very good question. Is it conceivable that a 10,000 square foot footprint would work in the historic district? I don't know.
I think good.
Be a lot of.
It's a good-
Well, what about that, how big the Brain Trask's, rooftop bar building,
It was
how big
hard.
would that be?
Was that big? I don't know if that was big, was that big or not? It
That was maybe.
It's like 98 feet long.
Okay. I couldn't remember how big it was, okay.
30 feet wide, I mean, 50 or 60 feet. Yeah. We can research that with maybe lease.
Yeah, Lisa would be a great one.
We can see if there were ever any large scale buildings like this size ever in downtown. If there's any historical context, and get back to you next time.
I mean, like, there were warehouses down by the river, but I don't know how big those were.
Yep, I don't know.
Okay,
I have
we'll come back to that.
renovation question. So if somebody wants to renovate a building, does the city do the 50% value and then it has to basically comply with this?
Yeah.
Any renovation?
But, and just party last.
So like, what about that building that's on the corner of Bay and Carteret on the south, it's the southeast corner? It's apartments and it's technically 3 buildings that are attached as a result of whatever they did to it. What, would that be considered something that would need to come under this section?
I think it would be under 10,000 square foot.
It's
But I'm
pretty,
not-
pretty large.
It's definitely under
all
20,000.
That's a good quarter.
Point.
You know,
We'd have to check.
there's the Merrill Lynch on the corner, and then there's the brown building, and then there's a middle building, and then there's another building. Most of it's residential, and then retail on the bottom.
Tabby Place is 9,932. according to the
I was
assessor.
just,
Yes, but that bank, Wachovia, is 18,000. So it's 200.
Wachovia, on Main Street,
Who it was.
with the vacant now,
No, it was Wells.
Well, right.
Wells
that-
Fargo,
that-
yeah.
Wells Fargo.
That's it, but that would be the whole thing, 18.
That was
So it's not, well.
that wasn't the footprint, that was the total square
Yeah, I
footage.
think so, yeah.
You're talking about the footprint of 10,000.
and that was an old building there that was renovated, right? That was not,
So there is 3 stories. 3.
not this residential,
right,
Oh, the one on.
on Bay.
on Bay.
Says it's 76.
But there's pictures of ladies typing and, you know, on the second floor, the beautiful secretaries typing in the building.
The steno pool.
Yes.
Would you want us to kind of do a little research on that?
Yeah, the hotel,
Well, the approved hotel is probably more than 10,000.
the Best Western is 21,600.
But what's the new approved hotel that's under litigation that was probably more than that 10,000 footprint, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Probably.
I'm betting it was, because looking at the lot there.
Well, so is 10,000 really what we want? If we're getting Tabby Places at 9,932, do we want? No, I mean, if we don't like those big monolithic buildings in the historic district, do we want to have a lower than 10,000 square
Well,
foot number?
But a big building can't be broken up with multiple facades in a lot of architecture, so all by itself, I don't know that the size is, I think it's the design of it and what it looks like from the street frontage.
For the landscaping.
Yeah, the landscaping, yeah.
Well, now the building, let's see.
The library is 33.
The library's 33,000 square foot footprint.
No, the whole thing, but.
Yeah, but it's all,
That's
it's just one,
totally
furniture, yeah, story.
They've got it, but not the whole story. So anyway, then we've got plenty over there.
I noticed it was moved.
I don't know, I would say, and your committee, the historic committee.
That's, well,
Well, but honestly,
I don't know if that's not really purview upon.
yeah, I think that.
I thought they got rid of it, but then I thought they've got it on a little sidewalk and behind now.
Just look, just Kurt, to give us a better sense of this, look at the approved new hotel and the new apartment building downstairs, just so we don't.
We'll just come back with, you know, what the existing buildings are.
Can you also ask HRB to take a look at this section? See what put from them on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You mean HBF or HRB? HRB.
HRB,
Well, maybe we can, yeah.
well, HBF can look at it too, but
Oh, they're probably already.
Okay. I don't know.
HRB is the ones that are really gonna be looking at these.
What's now, what happened, the Boys and Girls Club is 23. Which
Right.
had been US, Boys and Girls Club, now it's USCB.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's on
On
Boundary
Boundary
Street.
Let's go down. We'll come back to something.
It's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I need to know what program you're.
Yeah,
looking
I
at.
can find that so fast. What, were you?
County GIS.
Oh, you were a county, yeah, you were.
So you can search by working.
Well, yeah, that, no working, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Structured parking.
Do anybody else have anything else with lawn or? Pardon, we didn't touch, so.
Well, we did want the, to weigh in on the minor building and
You don't want to park in there.
I'm not gonna say. So we didn't touch it. Did not touch this at all.
so is the only multi-level parking deck in Beaufort, the one Stewart's project? Is there any other one?
I don't know, you wanna look at this, I mean,
No,
we
let's-
just decided not to look at
Let's
it.
turn our heads away and go to the next section.
That's what I would like to do. The bullseye enough sense, so.
Well, it's not likely to ever be a
This money.
second one. I mean, just, I don't think there's any.
Well, there's a parking shortage supposedly in downtown. And, somebody else might wanna build a building.
There's a lot of parking projects in Savannah and Charleston, so.
Well, there's some of those parking lots are
Much bigger cities.
privately. Well, maybe you'll do it again. The city don't sell parking lots too.
I can tell you that architecturally, you can design a structured parking deck that looks good and would fit into
Yeah,
historic area. It will cost some more money.
yes.
And you can have integrated shops on the lower level,
Yeah.
because it's all been done that way. But
Except they're big enough.
the appetite probably isn't there for anybody. I've asked that question. Cities doesn't want to do it.
Well, part of it is the
but-
overall height limit too, within the city. If you've got it
That's another problem.
6 or 8 stories, it's, you can put the parking underneath.
Yeah, you just have to pump it out.
No, I mean,
Often.
it's slab level.
There's nothing wrong with walking a little ways or riding your bicycle.
Yeah.
I think,
So you all wanna tackle this or just leave?
well,
it?
we have to do something with this section.
I haven't touched.
Let me ask you,
Why do we have to do anything with it?
can I ask you a question on,
You just not allow it?
let me ask this, given the,
No, I'm
Fact.
not saying that.
given the fact,
Might draw a distinction between the preservation district and the conservation
let
district.
me just ask a question on this, given the fact that there appears to only be one location for a parking garage in all of downtown Beaufort. How, then name it another site.
The city's building at 500 Carteret,
Where'd you say?
500 Carteret.
Where base camp is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna build a parking garage there?
Beaufort Post
Well,
Office.
you're next to Methodist Church, you could put one, they've got quite a substantial size
I
parking
just-
lot. You could put
I suppose you could,
you
yeah.
could put a 2-level or maybe architecturally a 3 in that location, you could.
It's not that close to the downtown park. Well,
Well, it's pretty close.
The post office.
here was my only point in asking, so maybe there's 2 sites. How much time do they have left on that permit that was obtained for the liquor store?
I'm not into it, I've been.
Is it kind of
Free, thank God, I don't need another thing, I would have, I don't know when it comes, Maria, you might know. I think it was like.
About the parking?
2020, maybe, the parking garage got approved, or Paul, isn't
That was before my time.
The final DRB approval.
Is that one tied up in litigation?
It's HRB, yeah.
I mean, it's probably those up to the 20.
We can find out for you.
The only reason I'm asking, and I'm not proposing this, but I'm just saying, we don't have to prevent parking structures if we don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, you could just remove this whole section. I'm not sure I'm gonna recommend.
I'm not looking to take away somebody that has the right, as long as they have the right and they execute it. Here's my point. Under the code as we've written, you got a limited amount of time, barring any appeals to move forward with what's been approved. After that, you have to start over. So I'm just saying, if there was
Old code still.
so if our new code didn't permit them anymore, once your time period expires, because you haven't exercised it could be that it's just not permitted in the code. I'm just throwing it out there. Because it seems to me we either have to address the fact we don't want them, or if we want them, then how do they have to look?
I would agree with you. I think the other thing is to decide, do you want this code revision to be, when you put an item like this, it could create a political, create some more controversy. Right. Or more about parking garage, less about all the other. That's mine.
I don't think that as long as we're not undermining somebody who's got a legitimate approval, if we're not undermining
No, we
their
wouldn't be
legitimate
changing
approval,
that.
but
Be any future where.
Well, it says that you need a liner building, so I would say. Okay, you have the liner building on your, the grade level,
Try not to.
right?
I just threw it out there, just.
I mean, I think
people
it will
don't-
be well done. I
Right.
mean, you can
Like I
see them
said, you
in
can do it.
You can,
a lot of cities, you don't even know they're there, like, Maybe behind line.
I'm not sure where any place, at least in downtown Beaufort, is, other than the one that got approved, where would you build one?
That's just, yeah, that's what I said.
But I don't know that that's a reason to
Prohibit.
fool with the language. I mean, what would be our goal in modifying the language for the structured parking? I mean,
Just to make it
well,
better.
it definitely has to be modified. I mean, there has to be something in here, that relates to the architecture of the design of a parking deck.
Well, we've already
And-
said we don't like storage buildings and, and.
Well, that's not gonna do it.
I'm-
Language, what you have to do. I've designed parking decks, okay, and I've done them. And cooperative ventures between the cities and people that are funding the parking deck, and they get the money coming off of the parking decks. And they work in conjunction with rental car companies that actually rent cars out of the parking deck.
sure.
And other things which actually would work into our environment if it was financially feasible, but who knows what in the future, what there may be, because there is a need, there's definitely a need, especially when Craft builds their building and takes up the rest of the parking down next to the, well, unless it sinks into the ground. There's gonna be a larger need for parking, and at some point in time, somebody's gonna do something at some point in time.
Okay, so do you want to?
Do you want to change the
Really
language?
regulate and strengthen the regulations?
I think we have to strengthen
Assume when it
this.
goes to an HRB, it would be very controversial item, and instead of
Yeah.
just denying it.
Yeah, I just think we have
So
to,
let's strengthen, so highlight this, let's highlight.
Well,
this.
how about, on the part where liner buildings, this is on page 33. It says liner buildings may be constructed concurrently with the parking garage, or space may be reserved for their construction in the future. In the downtown T5, you see, T5 DC, no, they need to be.
They have to be simultaneous if you're gonna do
So
that.
that would be,
Maybe we just make it required to have one.
Where was that?
okay, E3C. That one, liner may, but, okay. Maybe
Yeah.
that's okay in RMX, but in T5 DC. It needs to be constructed at the same time.
yeah, I think this whole section needs to, we need to look at the whole section, yeah.
All right, we'll look at it. Man, you guys are.
And we have to have a very strong architectural piece that goes with this, so that there's no question. And Again, HRB, I think, needs to take a look at this as well, because the large footprint.
All right, we'll come up with something. That you all are in agreement, or if you all just like leave it.
Well, I think that, you know, there's potential for redevelopment of sites as well. You know, like I'm thinking, you know, Newcastle Square is old and falling apart and, you know, not that useful as is. I mean, that would be someplace close to the college. You know, that somebody might want to put a parking structure there or some other, you know, student housing or something like that.
I think we need to address it.
Clinton and I are kind of like,
Is this
nothing to see
something,
here, nothing to see.
or is this something that you're gonna take on to
Yeah,
do
we'll
a rewrite?
work it with matters, yeah. We'll come bring it back.
I'll be happy to work with you. But
I think the goal would try to make it look like part of the city and not.
That's right.
Everything at all. Whereas, not sure that was accomplished. With this current code, it doesn't really do that per se, so I think that's what we can do.
That parking structure was approved before this code was in effect.
What about the
I don't know
housing?
I don't know all the details, but that sounds good.
The housing structure.
It's already limited, yeah, it says here in the.
I guess it's sort of around the details, but I'm trying to look. Trying not to wait on this.
35.
Please.
That's our.
Here, do you see this graphic here?
Yeah.
See,
Looks like you could put Thor in
I
there.
just don't see it. 30. I can't.
35.
Actually, they're not gonna have to do it.
Maybe not.
may not.
I mean, the last
We have-
price I knew was 20,000, space, they're probably up to 30,000 now.
It's rare now that people are developing parking structures. It's rare now.
Well, the cost is so high, and the return is not very good unless you're in a major urban area where every space is full every day. They just couldn't support it here. It's just not gonna happen.
Very.
Okay, where are we? That's fuel station, where are we timeline? We're 10 minutes to 4.
I'm gonna do the next two, like. And
So are gas and fuel stations completely
Looks like they're.
crossed out?
No gas stations. We just address the parking.
And we're going all electric here.
No more gas. I
Okay.
don't know where they went.
So where did these,
I don't like.
on this new version, Kurt, on page 34, the new version, there's just, kind of a random unnumbered city of Beaufort Low Country vernacular design guidelines. Is that
Yeah,
a
it
new
was-
section
it was
without a
just-
number?
I think we rewrote the whole section. And
So
that's
we changed the gas stations
to
to,
drive facilities, yeah.
so that would be 4.5.12.
That's right.
So we want to change.
I think probably we'll have to.
The application is the same as McDonald's.
So there can be no gas stations or car washes in the city of Beaufort anymore? I mean, is that what that means? There's
I
no-
mean, I think what matters is actually saying this two separate. Let's just put that back. Maybe we'll just do separate drive-through and then the gas station.
Yeah, they should be separate.
Yeah.
Because
I-
Are you
I ha-
okay with a separate drive-through facility?
I have them as two separate things. I didn't know why all that was deleted.
okay, so that was a mistake to delete that.
I mean, I think it's worth reviewing again, but I don't know why all that would be deleted.
Well, let's just highlight all that and we'll have to bring that back to you.
Yeah.
4.5.12 gas stations, B1.
But the goal was to create a whole new drive-through facility with that.
Mm-hmm.
Should we add RMX, like to specific to T5 use station, like the RMX and T5 use here? 4.5.12, B.1.
joint stations shall be.
But
Specific
it
RMX
relates to RMX and light industrial.
T1, so where it says
Specific
T5
T5
UC, should that be RMX and T5 UC or just?
I think it was supposed to be more restrictive just for the historic area, or the more urban area.
Gotcha.
It's more urban.
I mean, 3 is, wow, I mean.
And then the RMX is less restrictive.
Oh, okay.
It's in a lot.
Oh, I see this RMX is down there. I got you.
So, yeah, we'll have to look at that. But we could be on the top of a lot of magazines. We get a lot of press if we, eliminated gas stations. I say that jokingly.
The gas stations are sort of changing now, you're getting much nicer ones, like the Parkers. And that's in RMX, and the one out there at Buford Station, I mean, I think it's fine. But these little small ones that are on Rebo Road and, the older ones, they're gonna go by the wayside. They closed the one at the foot of the bridge there, McTier Bridge. The ones there at Mossy Oaks, and there's another one at First Boulevard. There was another one planned at First Boulevard. If it were handled properly, that probably would be a reasonable location for a modern gas station, which then might force the closure of the crummy older ones. So I would be careful about limiting, the pumps to just 8, because the places like Parker's, they want more pumps to make it work. And as long as they do it properly and have a nice looking facility and it's screened in some manner, I don't see anything, and it's got a lot large enough to handle it, like the one at First Boulevard, that lot. I think that one was turned down. As long as that one you've got a substantial size lot and they can work with buffering and screening, I wouldn't necessarily limit the number of pumps. I would try to make it work. And then the smaller, ugly ones, they're gonna go by the wayside and they can turn into something else. That's my thought.
But when we were on the DRB, we had a few gas stations that we looked at. And the big thing for the gas station people is they want their pumps to be visible to the people to come in and get the gas. So.
They want their logos and their colors and.
Yeah, they
everything.
want all that kind of stuff. And, maybe there's a balancing act there. As far as screening or liner buildings or orientation or whatever that would allow some of the nice new modern gas stations to be there and fit into our vernacular.
Yeah, if you allow them to have a sufficient number of pumps, then I think that you could get them to agree to put them on the back of the building and have the gas station itself. I mean, Parkers, I've seen a lot of them, just to use them as an example, and they look superior to the others. And so I've seen a number of them where the rear of the building has actually been treated very nicely. It's brick, you put windows in it, whatever, and they can put the pumps on the back and make it work. And then that'd be a good thing for the city, for the older ones to go away, because they're gonna stay in business.
We had them do some of the
Fuel
infrastructure.
Yeah.
If you don't allow under certain circumstances a better one to come along, the old crummy ones are gonna stay right where they are for decades.
Well, we'll work on this, thinking about that.
Maybe one thing to ask, the traffic, consultants, traffic engineers, I think this might have been an issue on that one at First Boulevard and Rebo, is that at a certain point, if the street is owned by DOT, a certain number of pumps, DOT is gonna want them to put a right turn lane in. And so now we've got Rebo Road where we're trying to slow traffic down and do, I don't know, some sort of streetscaping. Now we're gonna add another lane to do a right turn lane. So it sort of works against your idea of, I don't know, improving it for multimodal and that kind of thing. So, but maybe there's a threshold if you do a minimum or, a maximum of 4 pumps or 6 or 8, trigger, the right turn lane. So I don't know, I think we need to
I'll ask.
think about that, and that may be one I don't know, but that may be one reason that end market is held up in limbo is GOT and about their access. I don't know, but
We'll
it's
put a
just,
note about that.
the unintended consequences of some of these things, so.
So what
somebody
you're
can answer
saying
that
is
question
essentially
a number of times.
a gas station can change the nature of the T five. Urban.
Yes, yes.
As long as they sell Southern Pecan ground coffee. Have to try this Southern Pecan coffee.
Who sells that?
Markers.
Markers.
Fresh ground it is. What's everybody's pleasure here? I know Bill has to leave for another meeting. It's 5 to 4. I am opening another public comment before we close, so.
Let me just ask Maria a question. Have you guys gotten to 4.5.13 yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
See any changes?
Yes. I think a lot of this stuff was what we were working on last week, that you guys haven't seen yet. So
Okay, so
I think a lot of the comments that we're talking about, I mean, some of them we haven't taken into consideration and edited, but a lot of them we have. So I think it'll be helpful after this meeting, Kurt and Christopher, Nicholas, and then me and Jeremy to just go get together and discuss what we did last week, and then also, the track changes stuff moving forward. But we have looked at what, I think we've looked at pretty much all of this stuff. I'd say up until about 4.6, the materials and some of the fenestration, like transparency definitions we've looked at. A lot of 4.6 though is kind of the same, and same with 4.7. I think there's just probably not a whole lot to change with that. So a lot of the effort last week was put into the 4.5 sections.
Well, with that, you want to stop here and just before we do stop, how do you, think? I think we made a mistake, I made a mistake, but we're stick with this yellow. Do you want? We don't want to confuse this like we did before. Do you want to just have us provide a clean copy of these sections that we yellow for you next time, so we're not confusing everything? So you see everything.
My suggestion is that we're at a stopping place here. We've gone through everything. I'm more than willing to say, okay, we'll take the whole copy and set it aside, and you can give us a new copy, and we'll hit the last two sections that we haven't covered, and we can look at all of the changes that they put into here. And if you have the yellow on those, that would be great.
Okay, just one color, then, give us a clean copy with just what you said,
Yeah.
just yellow where we did
The
change.
yellow on the change.
I was curious if. How you want, do you want Tim's point, which I think is a good one. Do you want us to just give you a copy of all the yellow changes? And then you have your existing copy.
Well, I want a full copy.
Okay.
With changes in yellow.
Okay.
Not just yellow.
We'll highlight all the changes from this original Q version, any change that we made. We'll just have it in the highlighted.
Let me make clear.
And then will the rest of the writing be black?
Well, I think it would still be track changes, because it would be changes.
So then we still need the key.
So, yeah, so does that make sense? So we'll have until we approve it, until we take it to the planning board, we'll have the track change copy, but changes will all be highlighted yellow.
Changes
Otherwise,
since when?
Since today.
Oh,
Since today. How's that?
you mean since the beginning of the day?
You'll still see the track changes for all the rest of it, but only the changes, they'll only make changes to what we highlighted.
So the track changes will be in all this, there were like 6 different colors, just to have them.
There's some sections you're gonna be rewriting. And for example, you're gonna be putting back something relating to,
That's true.
these gas stations and stuff like that.
That would have to just go in a color like blue, or whatever they decide to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then any changes, all new changes from this meeting.
How about just a yellow highlight copy, I'll read the whole thing from beginning to end.
All new changes.
We were trying to get, might want to get away from that. So we have a version confusion, but, this is easier, I agree. I mean, it's nice that with your own computer, you
Yeah.
can track and untrack and get your metadata and all that, but this project.
Okay, before we break up, I guess I'll open it back up to public comment. If Mr. Trask, the other Mr. Trask has something.
So he can certainly go first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Graham Trask. I live at 1211 Bay Street. I've been sitting on this phone for 3.5 hours now. Mike, I had my hand up at the beginning for the public comment. It was ignored. And I'm quite concerned.
Mr. Trask, it was not ignored. We had public comment. We closed public comment after about 30 minutes.
No, you didn't, Mike. I'm gonna give you some constructive feedback. If you want to be argumentative, we can do that. I have a lot of concerns about what you've gone through. It'll probably take me an hour to go through that. Because I was cut out of the meeting, I couldn't provide any input at that as you were going along. It seems that if people want to contribute on Zoom, they're easy to cut out, and protocol silences them. I am one of the few who have actually made an effort to provide some feedback. And I'm just wondering, are you guys open to public feedback? And how do you give public feedback, particularly for someone whose property and zoning is being discussed? Because I feel like I've been silenced during this entire meeting.
Well, there was never any intent to silence you. There has been, you have listened to public feedback in here.
No, I'm the public, Mike. I'm the public. I'm the public.
Trask and others. And if you had your hand up or were trying to make a comment, I apologize. But we have been having public feedback as we move through here, as we have done for the last 3 years in all of our work sessions.
So Mike, please just try not to get defensive. Just let me give you my feedback, because I'm trying to work through how to make our city better. Okay. Are people on Zoom allowed to participate in the workshop or not?
Well, usually they are, and I know we do it in other sessions. Can you tell me how Zoom works? It seemed like there was an application where you could put your hand up if you wanted to speak.
Yeah, typically that's.
It's been up for 3 hours.
Well,
it seems that the person that controls whether somebody can come in, you guys don't allow them to come in, so they can't participate. You cut them off. You can't communicate with the person. Chat is off, so you're basically silent. So how do I get my comment? How do I participate?
well, there's 2 ways to participate. One would be in the session, or you could participate during the session and do a hands up. Now, I don't know what the confusion was, but we went past the public comment section, and that was a public comment section that people.
But this is a workshop. This is a workshop, right? Is a workshop just listening to you guys talk, or is it a workshop with the public?
I'm sorry, did you not hear the
It's
other
a
public
workshop.
comments?
I think Mike, I didn't see Graham on Zoom that we can see.
I didn't.
So you see
Not
him now.
all the time.
I can't, you don't allow it. You don't allow
So
it.
to Mike's, point, none of us knew you were even waiting, because usually we see everybody on the screen. And
No, so
we
what
could not
happened-
see you the entire time.
Kirk, real quick.
Oh,
Graham's visible now because his mic is unmuted.
oh, okay.
Because he's a participant, he is on the other side of the list. Once we allow him to speak, then he pops up, and then that, if he chose to, you could see his face.
Okay, so
So I
maybe
think
this is.
So
This is maybe a technical-
let me explain what happened. Who's the IT guy? What's his name? Sean. You knew I was there. You informed Mike that I wanted to speak. And he said, no, we're going to wait until the end for public comment. And so that's what happened. And you can go back and review what happened. And therefore, I have no more contact with Sean after that. Because I can't chat with him. I don't have his telephone number. All I did was kept my hand raised, and I was shut out for the entire meeting, Mike. But yet, you guys are talking about things that impact me financially.
I don't think anybody, we'll make that change with Sean, because I think our intent was if you were on the screen, we could see you and your hand raised.
But I would have, how does that work, Kurt?
I think, is that fine for everybody here? I think if someone's on the screen and they have their hand and we see them, we can let them.
So I think the issue is if you let just random talking, then you're gonna get interrupted. Not to say that Mr. Trask is gonna interrupt, but I'm just saying if you allow.
But it's a workshop.
No, and I understand. I'm just reiterating to them the process of typically how it's been working for the last 10 years. But I
No,
think.
you didn't do Zoom. You didn't do
I
Zoom until COVID.
I
And
think
what
what's happening now
happened,
is-
if I might talk, and it's easy to talk over somebody on Zoom, Sean.
I think it's just, I think it's a change between Tony and Sean. So Tony was letting the person into so we could all see them. We would see the hand raised, someone would say.
I think that change would really be helpful. I use Zoom constantly for court hearings and all kinds of meetings and statements and interviews, and it is, since we have a separate administrator who's not the chair, we need to work with Sean to make the screen that we are seeing more visible. And I think that it's unfortunate that things happen the way they did today, Mr. Trask, but we hear.
Please call me Graham, and I wish you guys would stop with all the formalities. This is just a workshop, guys. Let's just talk like normal people, and I appreciate that. And go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think your point is well taken. I think we can improve the way we handle this next time around. And us being able to see anybody's hand being raised will facilitate more participation by you or any other public member who wants to participate in the Zoom. And of course, it's still going to be up to Mr. Tomey as the chair to permit public comment outside of the usual windows for that, which is at the beginning and at the end of all of our meetings, including workshops.
Well, that's what I want to talk about as well. Is this a workshop, or is this a controlled meeting where you're going to allow some people to speak, others not to speak? You're going to only have design times at the beginning for public comment and maybe at the end. I mean, what I think you.
I think as you heard, the Scarboroughs and Paul talked throughout the meeting. They would just raise their hand, and the problem is we couldn't see you. And I think it's just a change between Tony and Sean. We didn't know you were there. Everybody in this room didn't know you were there, and I think.
Well, actually, I.
And
The
so
chair knew I was there.
To
Said
contribute.
no.
To contribute, I think, during the workshop. I think that was for a public comment. I'm talking about contributing, which I think was your past conversation, right? It's contributing, and I think that was just to raise your hand.
If I had been allowed
during the work session, because
Okay.
that's all the people in the attendance do. I think that was the intent, and that's the way we've been doing it. I think it's just a slight change from the previous person doing this, and I don't think there was any mistake or error intended with that. As he would, if he saw a hand up, and we would see the hand on the screen, all of us, and we would let them speak about structured parking or, you know, carriage houses or whatever, so.
Well, Graham, I think what we'll take away from this is a need for us to figure out exactly how to facilitate somebody who joins the meeting on Zoom to participate. I think you've made that point. The point is accepted. I think we all understand. We'll figure it out and move ahead. Can you go ahead and say now what you wanted to say?
Well, that's my next question. I mean, I've got a whole list of things to go through. You want to go? So that, I wish I had been able to do it during the meeting, but I have a whole list of things. You want to go through it now?
I think you're more than able to go ahead and go through the list. Now, just so you understand what our conversation was earlier before you were on the line, was that we are going to have a complete new this whole section we've been discussing all day is going to be revised and sent back out to everybody to take a look at, with all of the changes highlighted in yellow. And so we're going to review the whole thing at our next work session from beginning to end.
The whole thing being what, Mike? All sections 2, 3, 4?
All of section 4. All of section 4.
Okay.
That's what we've been reviewing. And just so that I can clarify for you, I did not cut you off. The agenda that we had has public comments at the very beginning. And we had public comments, but public general comments. Once we pass the public general comments, go into our work session, then everybody participates in our work session. If a hand is raised when it's appropriate for us to interact with them, I allow that person to speak. We just didn't have any idea that you were wanting to interact with the work session because we didn't see it. So we'll change that. We'll get that fixed for our next session. But if you have comments that you want to make that we should be considering before our next work session, you're more than welcome to do that now. Or if you want to wait, get a copy of the agenda, section 4, and the agenda from Kurt when it gets done, and then interact with us at our next session. You're more than welcome to do that too.
Okay, just a couple of thoughts. I do want to make a couple comments, but I will make more detailed at the next session. Being on Zoom is really difficult for the person on Zoom. And being in the room, and I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person every single time. And I know that's bad on me. But it's incumbent, in my opinion, and I think some of the people on the board see this, to really try to get the people on feedback from the people on Zoom, of which there are probably not many, because it's easy to overlook them, and it's easy to silence them, and it's easy to cut them off. But I encourage you not to do that because you're missing some really good feedback. And I'm not just saying that because a lot of it's going to be mine. In general, the feedback that I have on section 4 is I'm quite concerned about RMX being, that the transect and conventional zones are being merged and done away with. There's no differentiation. And that RMX is effectively becoming T5 UC. And that is concerning to me. I can see why some of the people on the board might want to do that, but I'm not on board. It impacts property that I own in that RMX T5 UC area. It is unwieldy to have liner buildings in front of RMX. I think you're conflating liner buildings with outbuildings, frankly. And liner buildings are different than outbuildings. So I request that RMX be pulled. It seems you just kind of thrown RMX in. And I can give you all the citations, or I'll send them to Kurt. With T5 UC, and that's an issue. As far as large footprint buildings are concerned, I really liked the discussion about the historic district. I'm glad you finally honed in on the hotel and the parking garage. I don't believe, maybe the parking garage has a footprint of 20,000 square feet. I think that's quite large for downtown, 20,000 square foot footprint over a 4-story building or 3-story building that's 60 to 80,000 square feet. The hotel, for your information, was about 30 some odd thousand square feet. I'm not sure exactly what the parking garage was. But I think you probably should have a differentiating scale on size downtown between the square footage of a building out on Robert Smalls Parkway. A 10,000 square foot building on Robert Smalls Parkway is not really a big building. 20,000 square feet, I think, is more appropriate. This whole, the large footprint building designation is not necessarily triggered by the square footage, but the frontage, which was the whole issue with the hotel and the parking garage and my building down on the waterfront, which the historic code requires buildings to be less than 100 feet along the frontage. And if they're larger, they then qualify as a large footprint building, as opposed to the footprint. Structured parking downtown is a problem in that I don't think there is a parking shortage in downtown. There seems to be this assumption that there is. If you go by the location which has a permit to proceed for a parking garage, you'll see it's virtually empty on any normal day, with the exception of these festivals that are downtown, which need to be managed some other way. If there is a parking garage, God forbid, downtown, it needs to have these liner buildings, which that one was supposed to have, but the code wasn't enforced. But that's a different story. You didn't talk about gas stations and drive-through facilities, but that's something that I'd like to talk about at the next meeting, particularly around how cars go, where drive-throughs are. You seem to want to force them into the rear, which creates huge unintended consequences, as you see from the Wendy's out on Boundary Street, Trask Parkway, Highway 21. And I still am confused why you can't have an exit coming in front of the building, a la what my cousin Paul Trask has done so well with the Chipotle and with the South Atlantic Bank. I don't understand why we continue to try to force these drive-throughs into the rear, which again creates these huge parking lots that look like a racetrack. It's a problem, and there needs to be some more thought. other things about the RMX when you're throwing it into the TC T5UC is you require all the same fenestrations and transparency for RMX, which requires mullions on all the windows, as if you're putting a building down in the historic district, which I think is inappropriate and needs to be looked at. I'm gonna provide these comments to Kurt, and I hope they'll be talked about in the next meeting, and I will attend the next meeting by Zoom, and I'd like to do it so I'm on the screen in video like your consultant was, because I'd like to be able to provide input as we go along, if that's okay. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can just make you a participant versus an attendee, so that's no issue at all. Yeah, 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 looking forward anyway, that's what I said.
That was the confusion that happened, I think. Previously, and I don't think it was any intended mistake with that. I think Tony had everybody just in the whole thing, and sorry.
Yeah, no, I understand.
you-
It just can be frustrating sitting on this side for 3 hours, as you might imagine.
Yeah,
But
I understand if you're sitting there for 3 hours during the meeting, not being able to participate in interaction, it can be frustrating. And hopefully that'll get fixed so that does not happen next time.
thank you, I appreciate that. All right, well, I'll recap this for Kurt, and then I'll bring it back up in the next meeting. And you guys are doing a great work. It's a very difficult and laborious job, as you guys know. So hats off to you guys for doing the death march through all of this. And I'll be quiet and sign off.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. We do appreciate your input, and we'll see you the next time.
Sounds great. Thanks to everybody.
Paul, you have.
Well, briefly, I want to say just a couple of things. I want to say thank you on a couple of things where it seems like design review is becoming much more important architecturally here, whether it's done by staff or whether it's going to be done by the planning commission. And I want to say that that's a move in the right direction. I like that a lot. I do want to echo a couple of points that Graham just made. There needs to be, we need to maintain RMX and certain rules for RMX because, you know, the option to switch back and forth. Mike, I know at one point you mentioned that you were not in favor of that. Maybe you still feel that way.
Doing dual.
Yeah, doing a dual zoning thing. But I want to say that, you know, we can't have a T5 UC density everywhere. It just doesn't work. There's no market for it. So there's a real need to maintain RMX. Along the same line, the issue, there's been a good bit of work done on drive-throughs, and I appreciate that. And I still want to make a couple of comments about that as it comes back up. But not everywhere, even in our existing T5 UC district, is appropriate for, you know, the vision that the Boundary Street Master Plan had. And I'll explain that more in detail later. And I think finally, Graham's idea or comment that he's exactly right that a large footprint building out in Burton is much different from a large footprint building in the historic district. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And so when we start to define what a large footprint building is, we need to be careful about making that distinction.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
Any other comments before we adjourn? Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. That's my idea. Well, I'll take don't need a motion to adjourn. Does everybody agree? We'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I really appreciate your time and